Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Kuhlman, and I'm with Corey, and this is our podcast. I believe it's episode 3, but we want to do something new with this one.
I am here, by the way. Yeah,
this is Corey. He's here. I'm not just like have you tied up in the corner of a room,
just a
bound
doll in the
yeah, bound and gagged.
Get a mirror on the face. I'm talking to someone.
Just wait your turn, dude.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
You get my own introduction.
We want to do something new with this one. Corey and I just love movies, and we want to do any excuse to watch movies and think about them and then talk about them. And
I don't like talking about them so much, but I'm forcing myself to do it because I think it's constructive. It enables myself to kind of have, like the third eye. That we dubbed it, quote, the
talk
third
about that.
eye. Yeah. Where we watched a certain amount of movies, we got to a certain age, we got to a certain mental capacity to watch movies and see things that we weren't seeing, or that we're just plain
it's
not
almost
able
like
to see it.
A further analysis of movies beyond. I mean, we know you go to movies, you like them. Oh, I like movies, but then you sit down and actually look at them, and you're like, I'm catching stuff that you're looking around. I'm catching stuff that nobody else is catching. Like, does nobody else see how great this is?
Right.
Like,
or we'll have a movie that's like, dude, that broke my brain. And all the reviews are kind of like, oh, it wasn't that great. Or people you talk to are like, oh, I wasn't interested in that. Or, I didn't like that. And then, but the two of us will be like, no, it was great because of ... And once you start to flesh out why those things, you get what we've dubbed the third eye, I guess.
Yeah, the third eye, the movie eye.
Yeah. So you're able to, touch on cinematography, directors that you like, and why, what deliberate things that they do that you enjoy. I mean, all the different facets of that, which I'm sure we'll continue to learn as we do this podcast and continue to watch movies for the rest of our adult life.
The episode today is about breaking down a movie we watched last night. It was Constantine.
Well, we didn't watch it for the first time last night.
That's true.
I probably saw it a year after it came out.
Okay. How old do you think you were?
Soon after that. 16 or 17.
16 or 17, you watched this movie?
Someone probably rented it. I probably seen it. But I remember seeing it back in the day. And then I watched it again. Probably within the last 3 or 4, 5 years.
Okay.
I think since I've been down here to Florida. So I think the two of us have watched it before then. And then, yes, we watched it last night.
I've seen it one time, and then I watched it again last night.
So you'd only seen it the first time?
Yeah.
Are you sure? I feel like the last time that we watched it, couple years ago, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this movie, it was so good, and then you rewatched it again, and you're like,
is my third
oh my
time.
god, it opened up my pores. My brain pores.
Yeah, I mean, alright, maybe this is my third time viewing it. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I loved it even more than the first time I'd watched it. I think before coming into it, I was like, this is a 4 out of 5 movie, and I don't know why I thought that. I just kind of have hazy memories of it. I remember like the imagery and the acting and thought it was a cool story. And then I watched it last night and really analyzing it, writing down notes, and just being real present with the movie. I would give it a 5 out of 5 right now. And that's the way I generally tend to rate movies, is on a 0 through 5 scale, really 1 through 5. And 5s, I dish them out. I mean, if I like movies, you get a 5. Like, if really like them. If they're a good movie, you get a 4 out of 5. But I don't mind being pretty generous with, like, okay, 5s that came out this year is, like, The Joker. What other movies came out that were good that we've talked about?
This year?
Yeah, this year, last year. Like, The Martian probably gets a 5. The Revenant.
Those are all 2015 movies.
Sure. I'm talking recent movies.
Okay.
Just, tons of them.
Yeah.
Your rating system is a little bit different.
Yeah, I like to go 1 through 10. It gives me a little bit more exactness in my rating.
Okay.
So I can give you, 3.5 stars or 5.5 stars, and I still have plenty of room to like grow, because for me, there's just so many movies that I think there are going to be a bunch of 0s and a bunch of 1s and a bunch of 3s. And there are going to be a bunch of 4s and a bunch of 5s, and so I need another kind of an elongated scale in order to encompass, how finely of a movie I'm going to rate.
What's the difference between like a 6 and a 7 movie? That's what I always have troubles with if I do my scale on a 10.
Sure, a 6 would be slightly above average, and a 7 is they did
that next tier.
something. Yeah, they just did something better than that.
Okay, cool.
I wouldn't say there's a huge, difference, but there's definitely going to be a difference between what I rate a 6 and what I rate a 7.5 or a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would you give Constantine, 2005?
Yesterday's movie, I would give it a solid 9.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's higher than I expected.
Yeah.
From just sitting next to you. You and I intentionally did not.
Me watching the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit. I was just getting your energy.
Oh, because you watched a little bit previously.
Yes.
And you just dabbled on it, and then you kind of like wrote some notes, and I think we were chatting about it or prepping for this podcast, and you started like spewing out stuff. I was like, wait. I don't want any spoilers. I don't want your experience.
Save it for the podcast.
Yeah. I didn't want your how do I want to word that? Like experience rewatching it and the notes and the kind of like what's the word I want here?
Like my analysis or my
your
viewpoint,
analysis, exactly.
my worldview on it.
I didn't want your analysis to kind of like influence.
Sure.
Because I saw that scene. Yeah, now I see that type of thing. But interestingly enough, you mentioned something and I didn't remember it watching the movie. So I'm
okay. Good.
I'm glad.
Should we get into it?
Could have talked about.
We've talked about our rating
Yeah. What
system.
was the first thing that you talked about? That you brought up before we watched the movie yesterday. It's like the opening scene.
Yeah, it was the opening scene. I just love the way they introduce a character. So we'll just start on the movie. I mean, everyone.
Sure, let's give it a little bit of
do you want
introduction.
the little bit of the introduction before I start, because I will get to what you just asked about. But we chose Constantine because it's a movie from a while ago. I mean, it came out 14 years ago.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
2005.
2005.
In case you're listening to
Yes.
this in 10 years.
Yeah, because everyone's going to go back
Yeah.
and listen to this. And
Well, the first episode.
whoa, this is when it all started. And we just chose this movie because it's like a good action movie, and it's got Keanu Reeves, and I don't think people have seen it. Like, anybody listening to a podcast in 2019 may remembered that movie but haven't seen it, or they never saw it, in which case we're going back and doing a retrospective on it, on what made it so good, or is that a good explanation for...
Yeah. What hit me was you said an action movie. I wouldn't necessarily...
I would change that.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it an action movie. Is that what it has? Is that what its genre is on? Like, if you Google it and you're like, oh, what type of movie is this? Or if you go to Netflix and it was under a genre pick or a genre category, would action be what Constantine was under?
It is known as a drama fantasy.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. Because I thought that a lot of the scenes were a lot slower, and then all of a sudden you have this fantastical, oh, he's in hell, or, here's a demon, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, jump scare you. Multiple times I wrote down, it's like, oh, yeah, they like to, like, just...
Shocking imagery.
I wouldn't say maybe shocking to, like, an average viewer, but I'm kind of, like, a little dull.
Yeah.
All right. I can appreciate when it's supposed to be shocking, but
you're
I'm
not
not going to
scared
get
by
shocked.
stuff. Yeah, you're just like, okay, yeah.
Specifically, like when, like in the middle of the movie, almost they're like, he like uses the burning sash around his hand to like scare away those things in the street, and it's like a real slow scene, and it's getting down, and the frame comes close to their face. And then you get the fucking bus driving by.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, well. He's done that a couple times, and I'm starting to like it or not anticipate it, because you definitely don't anticipate it. You're like, you never know when the scene is going to end, and that's his transition. But I remember that from the first time I watched the movie. I was like, you kind of like sit back in your seat when the bus drives by. You're like, oh, brings you back to reality. Yeah.
It's jolting.
Right.
It's not shocking. It's jolting.
Right. Yeah.
More intro on the movie. It's
Keanu Reeves. Who's the chick?
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz, and then a few other
Weisz. Not sure how to pronounce.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz.
And then, what do you know about the character John Constantine?
As far as like his actual like lore in life,
yeah,
not much actually.
I knew somewhat the first time I viewed it when I was 14 or whatever. Watched the movie, not viewed it. I didn't know anything about Constantine. He's a comic book character from, like, I want to say DC Vertigo Comics. maybe like no, it's like the same ones as Sandman, the Vertigo.
Yeah, it says Vertigo.
I might have the details wrong, but the point is he was a comic book character that did a couple of short detective. They were almost like noir detective stories where the character was kind of like a chain smoker. He was blonde. He kind of was in the streets of New York or LA or whatever, and he would hunt demons, and he was very conflicted, and they portrayed a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah.
But so he's teamed up with the Sandman before, because Sandman is a character by Neil Gaiman that who was a famous series that I've read and I love it, and I own all the works, and it's just cool artwork, and it's very dark, and he comes from that kind of universe. I'm not sure who wrote John Constantine, but some comic book artist made it, and so that's the background of that. And I can't believe they made a movie about it. I think Sin City was around that time, which is based on a graphic novel.
Right. Maybe that's where they got their inspiration, maybe for that. It's like, look how well an adaptation was made of another comic book type movie of Sin City. Let's try Constantine. I mean, this is before like Iron Man.
Sure, yeah. This is before all comic book adaptations.
Maybe Hulk was a little bit later.
They might have had a Hulk version out. There was Hulk with Edward Norton.
No. And I'm saying like first, but that's still like first for our generation, because there's been plenty of comic book movies made before then that didn't have the. Surprisingly, I wrote also in here the CGI held up.
The CGI did hold up.
Well.
Yeah, I wrote down that too. Yeah. The special effects were good in this movie.
Right. They were so like sudden and like on the screen for such a short amount of time that you kind of. You didn't get to really like analyze it. Like,
you didn't get that cheese factor. Like, oh, this is cheesy.
Yeah, and let me slowly snake this thing through here or whatever. What we looked up real quick, and it was like World of Worlds was at the same time.
Yeah, 2005. Let's talk about other movies that came out in 2005.
Yeah, I think I saw War of the Worlds there, and I think that held up pretty well.
So King Kong.
Yeah, that's gonna do just fine now.
Batman Begins.
The hair on King Kong might not do so well.
Okay.
On our
and that was first
high
King
definition.
Kong.
Yeah, high definition TVs.
Sin City came out.
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. That's a prime example of good CGI. So is Harry Potter 4. I see there on the list.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of...
I don't see any of those other movies there listed. Don't really have...
Madagascar as an animated film, just to give...
Oh, just to give...
context of
right.
But that looks,
what else was coming in at that time? Fantastic Four, the original one.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Where we have Iron Man as the torch. The Human Torch.
No, not Iron Man. Captain America.
Captain America. I thought that's what I said.
What's his name again? Chris Evans. We forgot that. Throwback.
We never forget another actor's name. Not.
And then Keanu Reeves looks exactly the same.
Yeah. That man does not age.
He does not age. There's a conspiracy theory that they have a picture from someone in France in like the 1800s, and then they have another picture of another person that looks like Keanu Reeves in like the 1900s, and then they have another picture, and then they have Keanu Reeves, and he looks the exact same. They're like, he never ages. He's just some...
He's a god himself, just traveling this world.
Yeah, but it's totally ruined because they have pictures of Keanu like as a young man, like a kid. Yeah. It's like, okay, well...
Or he was a baby. Yeah.
Or do that.
Dude, those are fake.
Those are fake.
Our conspiracy.
I love Keanu Reeves. I love that it's almost like a renaissance of Keanu Reeves with all this John Wick stuff, because, dude, that guy got big. He was big before The Matrix, like somewhat, but The Matrix blew him up.
Yeah.
And I heard somewhere that, I read this online, that he took a cut from The Matrix that, like, I don't know if it was royalties or he just, instead of just getting a blank, he got a cut of all the revenues of the movies, and then he did Matrix 2 and 3, which were smash hit successes. So he's like set for life, and every movie he's doing since then is only projects that he wants to do, and it's definitely showing that he's got Constantine in 2005. At this point, Matrix is already shot and finished.
Right.
John Wick.
Shot and finished. 6 years, right? 99 is the Matrix.
99 was the Matrix when it was released, and then 2 and 3 came out in like 2002 and 2004 or something like that.
All the Gen Z people listening to us right now are 99. That's like, oh my
Dude,
god, it's so long ago. How am I supposed to watch anything back then?
We are what we are.
If you haven't seen the Netflix, if you haven't seen the Matrix, turn this off.
Turn this off. Go watch the Matrix.
Go watch the Matrix.
Yeah, don't listen to us. You gotta get tears to watch us.
Oh, would you suggest if there was an excerpt? Some podcasts, hosting sites will put an excerpt. 30 seconds. Our excerpt right now starts right now. Would you recommend that the people before they listen to this or after they listen to this watch the movie?
I would say that you can listen to us without watching the movie. You probably should be familiar with the movie. Like, oh, I know about that, or that came out in the theaters.
Spark notes that bitch.
Okay, Spark Notes. All right, let me retry with the 30-second. You do not have to watch the movie before you listen to this podcast, but it's recommended to do so.
Okay. All right. I almost would more than recommend, go watch the movie because we're about to spoil a lot of shit for you.
That's true. We're going to spoil everything.
Yeah.
So it's not even worth watching it after, unless you're already interested.
Right.
In which case you should pause this, go watch it, then come back.
I'd say majority of the people that, maybe not. I don't want to draw that conclusion of most people would see it if they're listening to us, but that's probably not true. I wouldn't say
that's the hope, right?
Yeah.
The hope is you've seen this before years ago. You're listening to us now, really break it down and analyze certain scenes. It makes you want to go back and watch it along with us.
Yeah. We'll throw that timer up on the screen like Joe said.
Maybe. Any other introduction that you want to say about it?
No, I think we covered the scope of when the movie came out, Keanu Reeves.
We should mention that this is the director's it's his debut directorial
That's true.
movie.
What's the director's name?
The director's name? Francis Lawrence.
Frank Lawrence.
Frank Lawrence. Good movie, Frankie. Real good movie. And since then, he's directed Red Sparrow. And
He did all the Mockingjay titles.
Mockingjay? Yeah.
So everything after... I guess he did Mockingjay and... What is the last one? Mockingjay is part 1 and 2.
I just didn't see those.
Yeah.
Mockingjay Part 1, Part 2,
Right.
Part 3. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good.
With Jennifer Lawrence and stuff. Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Um,
Oh, I Am Legend. We can't... He directed that.
Right.
Which is, also a really good movie.
Right. Very similar, I'd say. He doesn't meet very many characters.
Yeah.
It has that jump scare factor of tension, and then you got the bombs going off in the city, and spoiler alert, his dog dies.
Ugh. Hate it when the dogs die.
Hate it. You always get the
Makes for good movies, though. John Wick, dude, it's a whole 3
There's
movies.
There's a proof that you can do.
Yeah.
Dogs in movie equals good movie.
Is it true that
Prove
John
it.
Wick has the most on-screen kills of any movie character?
I believe so, yes. I believe I read that
He
stat.
beat Rambo?
Yeah.
Who do you think's second?
With John Wick 3, I think he beat...
John Wick 3 took it way over the edge.
I don't think it was way over the edge, but that did nudge him over to be the top. It's probably Rambo.
Okay.
It's probably... Who else would be killing a lot of people on screen?
Who else is killing so many people over that many movies? Would it be Terminator?
No, he didn't really... He was
He's-
killing robots.
Yeah.
Unless you count his off-screen kills.
Rambo's got to be up there.
On-screen kills, right? That's
That's the thing. Yeah.
The Bourne
Bourne,
movies?
maybe. Jason Bourne.
There's probably an obvious one that we're just duh.
Yeah.
Blade.
Blade. I watched Blade for the first time. That's another 90s action movie that just hold out. Or, it's a little cheesy in places, but it holds up. But I don't want to get off topic. Let's get right down to it. So,
Okay.
the opening scene... the opening scene is...
Do we need an intro for this?
For this part?
Down to text.
Thanks, Corey.
That's my signature sound, dude.
We're too cheap to afford a soundboard, so we just spit on the mic making noises.
I've spent hours practicing that horn,
Okay. Thanks, and I feel so much more transition to this this section of the thing.
More like I made you lose your train of thought. Probably.
Yeah, they got it. They got an opening intro that is like they're finding the Spear of Destiny, which is
which you don't know what it is. They don't tell you that's the Spirit of Destiny. There's no words.
There's no words. Yeah.
In that opening, what? It's like 45 seconds.
Sure. Yeah.
I also noticed, like, as soon as I sat down and we pressed play, and you still have the Warner Brothers and the 20th Century Fox, and that how they transition from showing who's producing and the top who funded this movie.
Intro credits.
Yeah, and then they like made it disappear or they made it waste away like it was part of hell. I always appreciate that in movies.
Okay,
it's a really good transition of like, hey, this isn't just going to be a generic 20th Century Fox presentation of their logo and their intro. And then we're going to tear it apart and transition into our movie. I always like that.
Okay, interesting. You felt like you were drawn, like a transition from, okay, we got the business stuff at the beginning of the movie into let's get into this movie world.
So the normal style, obviously, is like doing all the intros, like here's 20th Century, here's
who produced it.
Lionsgate or whatever.
Yeah,
all
directed.
And then you'll have like the words, and they'll do the exact same thing into words for the production, and they'll be like, Lionsgate Studios in association with blah 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 blah, and it's still a black screen, words, and then eventually we start music and then
they start the movie with a sky with the cloud, and they go down to the house, and then the guy's getting out of his house, he's getting into the car, and music starts playing.
Real slow.
You're not transition like I mean I guess that's a start. That's
a style, and I appreciate the style of someone who's going to be like, all right, we're getting in this movie right now.
Yes.
Here we go. So strap in. And that's kind of like what the movie does to you. Is like, hey, strap in because you're going to be in for a ride. Like, don't get too close to the screen because I'm going to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And you don't find that out until probably a couple minutes in.
And we have this opening scene where these two guys are in Mexico digging near a church or abandoned church, and they find the Spear of Destiny, and then
I wonder what they were looking for.
Who knows? Just
what would you be looking for, like, in an abandoned church? Instead of like being with your family and farming or something,
like working, like
begging, or making tostadas on the street,
whatever.
Why are you like digging around in the dirt and then he like steps through the ground and like, oh, I found the spear.
Yeah, and it's a blade and it's got like
it's a spear tip, so you would put that whole thing on the end of a spear and you wrap it up.
And weird stuff starts happening. He ends up like killing his friend.
Yeah, it looks like I thought he just looked possessed.
Yeah,
like as soon as he touched it, he like got that possessed look on his face, like dead face. His eyes changed color. Yeah, I noticed that a little.
And then a really cool little shot of him walking through a field and all the cows.
Oh, that was later.
Okay.
That really cool shot was him walking into the street.
Oh yeah,
and then typical, or it sets the pace for the rest of the movie. Is like this loud horn, and this car crashes right into him. But the guy doesn't move, and the car gets smashed all around him, and then it was like, oh, this guy's invincible now. A little quip though, I don't think that was accurate to like physics. If you hypothetically, if you're a god, what do you know? You tell me about physics, Corey. Sit down and give me a lesson. Physics, Corey. How would it work? If you were a god and you were like so heavy, because that's what it kind of portrayed to me. It's like you're so heavy, you like have your own gravitational pull that this car is gonna slam into you like it would a tree. Yeah. But his torso ended up on top of the hood, like he was bent over. Yeah. It's like, wait, if inertia was gonna affect his top of his torso to slam him into the car, why what about his feet? Why is his feet still touching the ground? And like it's not he doesn't have sticky feet, or I kind of like question. Like even if he's like invincible and immovable, he'll be moved like a little bit just by the mass and going move so him fast. A little bit, but he's still going to be standing up straight, kind of like looking at the car, and that kind of like, I'm a person and you're an ant. Why are you touching me? Like, but I don't think he would have slammed into that. But I think that aided into the transition of that is like. His friend gets up from where he is. He's like, oh, my friend just died. Let me go look at this car. And then you have the scene of slowly panning over the guy who got hit by the car. And then he stands up joltingly. Yeah. You get that shock value again. And he like jumps out and runs away. And you're kind of like, okay, well, I'm interested. Yeah, let's see crazy. What this movie's got. Yeah. And that's just like the first minute. Yeah. Yeah. And then we get the introduction of the character. Well, then there's a small scene where it's in Los Angeles, and
like a lady walks in with a tray of like food or something to her daughter's room, and she sees her daughter, like the door, like it kind of, the camera goes around the door a little bit, you get to peer in, and it's a demon girl, and she's on the corner of the top left of the room, and she's like looking down at the mom like, ay Dios mío.
Oh yeah, you get some real like exorcism of Emily Rose type thing right away. You're
they're telling you what kind of movie, like this is
and
gonna
the
be.
camera angle is like just peeks you. It just peeks you past the edge of the door so you can see, and you're like looking for a someone who's actually gonna eat food on
someone
the ground
in bed
level.
or something.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, boom! There's a person in the top of the ceiling on the roof, and you're like, oh.
Yeah,
Get
and so
chills.
they call a priest, and the priest is this kind of like large guy who's an alcoholic. You learn later on, and he's like, he calls up John.
He's an alcoholic?
Yeah.
Why would you call him an alcoholic?
Because he was an alcoholic.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was a part later on in the movie.
That's why he died, because he was an alcoholic?
Well,
I guess that he was...
A curse they
I
gave
remember
him.
him trying to take a drink, and I thought it was like holy water or something medicinal or quote, holy, so that he could survive touching the body. You know what I mean?
No,
then,
that you're talking about. So this character was an alcoholic. He was a drinker, and then because he wanted to calm the thoughts in his head because he could see demons and stuff.
He can hear stuff, right? That's
Yeah,
why
so
he can like spread his hand over newspapers and hear stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, the voices in his head, and I don't know if it was like Satan or something. It takes away his ability to drink, and so he's just cursed with that.
It was Balthazar.
Balthazar, which is a badass character.
Yeah, it takes away his ability to drink. I thought that was a really interesting, like...
Yes.
What an odd way to die. Is it...
No, he killed himself because of it. Because the voice is in his head.
So he overdosed?
He was trying to calm the voices in his head. This is like later on. We'll get back to... But he was trying to calm the voices in his head, and he got cursed. And so he's trying to drink to drown out the voices. He can't drink, and then he like stabs himself and kills himself.
That's not how he died, though. He died because all of the moisture was coming out of his body.
Okay, maybe I viewed it incorrectly.
Because the doctor or the detective, when they show up on the scene, is like, he died of alcohol poisoning. He drowned himself. But in the scene, you see him unable to consume any liquids whatsoever. Or maybe it was just alcohol. I don't know why he didn't try water or whatever. And then, as he's dying, you see him, all the liquid leaving his body through his mouth.
Okay.
I felt like he was like, he cursed him in a way that made him lose, I don't know. Or maybe he was disillusioned into thinking that he couldn't drink, but he was actually
Maybe
drinking.
he was, yeah.
And
he was crazy enough that you don't know.
Right. And there's whatever curse or whatever like thing happened that Balthazar did to him that he couldn't recognize that there's actually something going in your body, and then he overdosed or whatever.
Sure. And yeah, that's
anyway.
Part of what
this priest is the first person that we see come down. What did he just like come down the stairs and talk to John?
He calls John Wick, and so John Wick shows up in a taxi cab,
driven by
Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Dab on him, Corey.
What's that music video you just watched recently?
Which one?
Shia LaBeouf. Da 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 da. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah,
it's like it was an orchestra and a choir and thing. I forget what it was.
Some
like a satire.
Bunch of people that made a video about an orchestra, and the guy that they were singing about Shia LaBeouf, and it was just funny because he's like a meme character now.
Yeah. So
you know,
funny.
4chan like hates Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Like,
a lot of people hate Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, so Shia LaBeouf had this protest against Trump, and he said, every day for the Trump presidency, we're going to have like a sign up, and we're going to say, he will not divide us, he will not divide us. And they had it in the museum of, like, in New York or something, Museum of Fine Arts or something like that. And 4chan would go there, and because anybody could show up in front of this camera and, like, say it. And it was supposed to be for every single day, 24 hours, we're going to protest. And 4chan shows up, they start saying, like, racist stuff, and, like, so they have masks, they drink milk, they have Pepe the Frog. Like, they're just jokesters, right? Like, they're just saying the opposite of what Shia LaBeouf wants. And so Shia LaBeouf has to cancel it, and he takes it out in the middle of nowhere. Shia LaBeouf puts a live stream on his own dime, I want to say. I'm getting the details wrong, but whatever. In the middle of a field, and for, like, a month it goes by, right? And then the 4chan's trying to get to the middle of the field to tear down this flag or whatever that says he will not divide us. And a plane
Obviously,
goes by.
Shia LaBeouf is not
No, he's
on
not.
site.
No.
So this is just a live stream of a picture. In the
Yeah,
okay.
as a protest, because he wants to keep his project alive against protests against Donald Trump until he's out of the presidency.
Also protest against 4chan, who's protesting him.
Not necessarily protest against 4chan, but 4chan likes to go, shut up.
We're gonna troll the shit
They're
out
trolls.
of you. Yeah.
And so this was in the middle of nowhere, live stream. A plane goes by overhead, and based on the direction and the time of day that the plane went, people on the internet they could decipher exactly where it was, but it gets even more in depth. A guy started honking his horn while driving around the area and he's reading the chat on his phone, and then until they could hear in the live stream video that he's honking, and they're like, "Oh, we can hear you. That guy gets out of his car and walks around, finds the flag, writes down the coordinates, posts it online. People flock to it. They put racist stuff on there. They not like bad racist stuff. I don't think they're being serious. They take the flag away and they put in a Pepe the Frog and they put a "Make America Great" hat on it, and they just troll him. And then they hate Shia LaBeouf. And so you had to take it down again.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Did he do it? Did he try to start it?
Yeah, he did it again in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how that's. I heard this all on a podcast that was. It was Ari Shafir's Skeptic Tank, who's a comedian. He played a Radiolab podcast on his podcast because Radiolab had to take this down because I don't know why they had to take 4chan or protested or they're enabling white nationalists or some bullshit. But this information was a good story, and it shows the power of the internet and trolls online. And okay, I don't know if that aside was worth it, but it was interesting to me. Isn't that a fascinating story?
That is a fascinating. I had no idea. I'd never heard that before. I knew people didn't like Shia LaBeouf, and I didn't understand.
He's a meme.
I didn't understand why, but
yeah,
whatever.
So Shia LaBeouf's in this movie. He plays the apprentice. His name is Chaz.
He's also the taxi driver.
The taxi driver.
It's not his car. I don't know how that works.
I don't know. That must be a reference to comic books. And just to be clear, I don't think I've ever sat and read a John Constantine comic book, but I know he's a character in Sandman, and I've read all of Sandman. Okay. So that's just my connection with...
Every time someone reminds me that Constantine is a fictional... well, obviously he's fictional, but that he comes from the comic book era, I never remember that. And then you'll say it and be like... I do remember saying that, but it's not something that I
He was never a huge character.
Lodge away, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But heavy smoker in the comics, and he shows up, and the opening scene is he gets out of the taxi cab, chain smoke. I mean, he flicks a cigarette, lights up another one, and he walks into the room, gets some details about what's going on with the exorcism, or what he's going to need to do an exorcism on this girl.
Call him. The priest then tells him something and right away I could tell the priest was freaked out. He's like, oh, this is not your everyday. Grandma's paranoid about the granddaughter. You need to exercise her or whatever. Is that how you say that? Exercise?
Exercise? Yeah, exorcism, exercise, exorcise. You gotta
exercise.
Exorcise.
Exorcise.
Exorcise. You're not.
You can edit that shit out.
Probably not. You gotta listen to it.
So he goes upstairs right away. He's like, I got this. I wrote down that he was Keanu is confident.
Yes.
And maybe overly so.
Yeah.
Question mark. That was maybe that was post after he does what he's about to do. So he goes up to this room.
He's macho.
Yeah. No, well,
he's a quiet, introverted sort of guy.
So macho is a word that I would use for someone who is overly testosterone. That's the word that I associate macho with. So I don't. Keanu's still a regular guy. He doesn't look like John Wick yet.
He's a thin guy.
Yeah, thin guy. He's a smoker, obviously, and he just kind of has that I don't give a fuck attitude on his face, how he walks, what in his mannerisms, and you see that through the next 5 minutes of the scene. Which
he takes control. I mean, he walks into the room and says, I need
authority. Yeah.
Yeah. This is my job. This is what I'm doing.
And no one questions him at all.
No.
Yeah. He gives off that confidence too.
Yeah, but not cocky. Well, maybe he was a little cocky.
In the first one?
In the opening scene.
He's
a little confident.
In the first exorcism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's talking to the demon. He calls it an asshole. Like, I'm John Constantine, asshole. And he punches it and
punches it in its throat.
One thing to note is that he had a lit cigarette, and he puts it down on the counter, and the camera is a close up of that.
I lied.
You do remember that?
I did remember watching it. I was like, oh yeah.
And so
we'll see that cigarette again.
So he's about to start the exorcism, and the lit cigarette kind of shows us that this is the beginning, and that probably by the end of it, I can already imagine that he's going to go to the counter, pick it up, and then take a drag. Like, that's going to be how this scene ends, right? Turns out they subvert our expectations on that, and it totally is not what happens, but they set it up perfectly. He shows up with the demon, and, like, I just love that he takes one look and kind of, like, stands over her, and, like, just kind of, like, it's not like mounts her, but he's standing over her on top of a bed.
She's tied down.
He ties her. Yeah, she gets tied down because he tells people, "Go! I need rope. I need a mirror. I need this."
No, she was already tied down because I think that's what's his name did.
Okay, the priest. Maybe off screen.
Do we know his name?
I don't remember it.
I
don't think it's relevant.
I know Keanu's name is John, and Shia LaBeouf's name is Chaz. Angela's the chick. Balthazar. But I didn't remember the priest's name. I kept writing his name as the priest.
Yeah. He was kind of a minor character.
Priest has an odd and brutal end.
Yeah. That's a good note.
Really gonna spark some conversation on that one.
Whatever. You wanna start, what was your impression of the opening scene, like with the lit cigarette, and then he kind of like does some stuff trying to exorcise her. It doesn't work. Or no, it gets kind of quiet. We have another close up. When it got
quiet, is that when you saw he was going to go grab the cigarette?
Yeah, the close up of the cigarette happens again. It's burnt a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to the demon, and then the demon kind of like, there's a jump scare.
Right.
And at that point, I was like,
he gets real close, right? He like puts his ear over the demon's mouth. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you must think he's gone. I don't know if it's because I had already seen the movie and I might have subconsciously remembered what was going to happen, but anytime someone does that in a movie, it's like, oh, something's really dangerous and this person's going to get real close to their face. I'm like, you're dead, dummy.
Yeah, it's like
you're going to get injured somehow.
It's like in a horror movie. It's like, don't go in the barn.
Yeah,
like, just stay away.
Stay with the group. Die together.
Don't
it's
put
better
your
than
face...
dying alone.
Yeah. And he eventually exorcises the demon by like bringing a big mirror in.
I thought that scene was cool.
That was awesome.
That's when he tells everyone in the room, like, go get me this, go get me that. He takes control of the room real fast. He knows what to do after he finds out that, this demon is the real shit. And he has a plan. He knows what he needs. He whips out those keys, his ring of keys or something, and each of those symbols is what? Like a different... pagan god or something, I want to say, or there's got to be some sort of like significance to each of those coins.
They're like little charms.
Yeah, little charms that represent something that each of these different kinds of demons, is terror to them. Well, it's like holy water.
And it doesn't explain any of that. You're inferring all this, which is like a cool part. It's a cool prop. They were really good at using props in this movie, where he just pulls it out, and you could just there's kind of like this unwritten backstory of imagine all the other demons he's had to face before, and he knows to go for this particular charm, and he puts it on her forehead.
It in the sun. He's flinging through it, and all of a sudden he gets the right one, and the demon freaks out. He's like, "Oh, I know which one you hate." Yeah, and he puts it on her forehead, right, and it starts steaming.
Burns
the. It probably just like, hurts them. It just probably hurts them so that they want to get out of the skin, and then that's when he's able to identify what kind of demon it is, maybe.
And then it's like after that he identifies what kind of demon he's working with.
He's like, tells everyone, "Hey, I need a mirror, I need rope, go guys!" And they bring the mirror back, and he like sets it over the bed, so this girl tied down on the bed has to look up, but he covers her eyes.
Well, he tells Chaz first.
Oh yeah, he tells Chaz.
I love that part.
Move the car.
Move the car.
Chaz is like, what?
What? Why? Just move the damn car. I love that because it was so. The shot was perfect. It was like he was looking. It was a shot of looking up the fire escape. Keanu Reeves is at the top. We're gonna interchange Keanu Reeves and John Constantine the whole time.
Yeah.
Keanu. He's like my friend. Keanu.
JK. We'll call him JK. Like JK Rowling. He's a wizard.
Keanu's looking down move the car. He's like working, tying ropes, trying to get things going, and his little assistant down there is like, wait, why? It's like, don't question me, just move the car.
And he does it like a kid too.
Yeah.
He does it like a child. He like puts it in reverse for 1 second literally and
moves it 5 inches back. Like, it just not like,
what do you call that? What do you call it? You
malicious compliance? Minimally
Minimalist?
complying?
Oh, it's like doing the bare ass minimum. It's like,
Yeah.
I guess I'll just do it because you told me to do it, but you didn't give me specifications on what you wanted, so I'm just gonna, damn it, there's another word that I wanted to use there, but I'm not educated enough.
Yeah. It's because we're on a podcast. Why would you be able to listen to, or why would you be able to think back to all the words you need exactly when you need them? I mean, this would be a good time.
I always thought that was like a minor skill of mine, was to be able to
recall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not recall, but to like eloquently say something.
If the mic wasn't hot, you would...
Maybe.
This is me too.
Malicious compliance, probably.
Malicious compliance.
Yeah. But I just loved that he just like moved it 5 feet. I was like, oh, we're going to see that again.
Shia LaBeouf looks like he's 22 in this.
Yeah.
He might have been.
I would say younger than that.
Younger than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Keanu doesn't look like he's 40.
No, Keanu looks 30.
Doesn't it say he's 40 in that because of his cancer thing?
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. If it did
I
say
thought
that.
Shia LaBeouf would be younger, like 19.
Sure.
That's why I took his character to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, and then he goes back in the mirror scene, like
Right. Throws the mirror over the bed, and he's covering this girl's eyes who has the demon inside her, and I might have been like writing notes, but the details are a little fuzzy. And then he like, all right, everyone, don't look.
He whispers at it, and he goes,
Yeah, he
like,
starts
"You vain prick," or something like
saying
that.
something in Latin, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he starts talking to the demon.
Right.
He covers the girl's eyes, and he goes like, "Look at yourself, you vain prick,"
Yeah.
and like he's kind of taunting or goading the demon a little
Right.
bit, and then the demon looks over his shoulder at its own like reflection.
Right, in the mirror.
And in the mirror, the demon pops out of the body, and it's
Yeah.
trapped in the mirror.
Yeah.
And he tells everyone around, there's kind of like 6 men holding the mirror, cause it's a big heavy mirror, and nobody look. And one
of the
guy,
guys.
of course, peeks, which I thought was awesome the way, because you're thinking, if someone tells me to do something, like not all of us are going to comply.
Right.
There's going to be one person that
Yeah.
doesn't do it. But this one guy who sort of peeks, and it's like, that's interesting. Let's explore what happens when someone breaks the rules in a fantasy world. Because a fantasy world is set up, demons exist, they can inhabit people, here's how you get rid of them, here's some backstory on tools that you can use to get rid of demons in. What happens if you look at an exorcism and you're not supposed to, and you're a mere mortal, and you look at it, you're not Constantine? Well, as it turns out, this guy, he started getting all white and aged, and he starts like shaking, almost like having like a spasm, and he ends up like, I think his face or his skin starts to wrinkle, he just ages really rapidly and falls and dies.
He dies.
Oh yeah, he
Oh,
super
I didn't
dies.
know that.
Yeah.
I just remember his hair going white.
Yeah.
His hair and his hair, his facial hair and the head of hair just goes white. And
Yeah.
I didn't catch what happened to him after that.
It was just freaky stuff.
Yeah.
It was just a good little...
So as soon as that demon comes out and goes into the mirror, I wrote some real demon shit right away. You know what kind of unique movie you're in for.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's kind of what...
This is still within the first 10 minutes.
Oh, this is 5 minutes
5
in.
minutes in, yeah. Yeah.
And we're not going to do this for every scene.
No.
This, this is
Kind of sets the pace.
something that as I was watching is Damien Chazelle, the guy who directed Whiplash and La La Land, who I can't wait. I don't know when his next movie's coming out, but I can't wait for the next one because those are the only 2 movies. Those are both 5 out of 5 movies for me. Those were awesome. I watched a commentary over Whiplash, which is an amazing movie, and he says so many people waste their openings. Openings in a movie, everyone's sitting down, you got their full attention. You need to really get them with something good, because as the movie goes on,
deep hook. When you go fishing, you
Yes.
get that hook that gets all the way in that fish's like gullet. You're not getting that hook out.
yeah,
You're stuck. You're coming home with me.
yeah, exactly. If I can hook you in,
Yeah.
you're mine the rest of the
Right.
movie. And they had this interesting scene as the opening hook. And
I think the first time I watched it, that opening scene of the little Mexican finding the spear.
Yeah.
That was enough of a hook for me.
Sure.
Because he gets hit by that thing. It's like, oh, we're dealing with like immortals, or there's gonna be like gods or something, and the cool powers can be. It just kind of opened my imagination to like, oh, this movie is gonna go. I think I'm gonna like where this movie's going with how it's portraying.
Yeah.
These powers and stuff like that, and
then generally, what happens after the exorcism? Like,
he goes home. Does he go to the doctor right away?
well, he kind of like goes downstairs and like gets in the car, and him and
him and
Shia LaBeouf sort of talk.
Shia LaBeouf.
And he goes,
They're shooting the shit, and
this is not my car. Like,
I like how Chaz's character is always like, John, come on, John, can you help me, John, I need a phone, John, just let me come inside with you, John. And just reiterating that, John, I love that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, because John Wayne is kind of like this quiet, like almost like a mentor, but he's quiet and like, don't question me.
Yeah.
Like, I tell you to do something.
Chaz doesn't get that hint. He's just like, John.
And he's totally like not prepared.
Right.
And John tries to tell him like, you aren't ready for it yet. It's like, no, yes I am. And it's like that pops up later in big ways later on in the movie where Chaz tries to do something and sort of fails. But then also Chaz ends up saving him a few times.
Yeah.
So that relationship
I wrote
gets...
that down. Chaz saves the day.
Chad saves the day. Yes, he does.
Chaz saves the day.
And then after that, we kind of get Keanu Reeves gets a lung disease diagnosis where because he's been chain smoking, he's been smoking 3 packs a day since he was 15, and he gets lung cancer, and that's kind of a diagnosis, like, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And you have less than a year to live. And he's like, okay, and he lights a cigarette, and he's like, I like that badass attitude. It's almost like nihilistic, like acceptance of whatever's gonna happen happens. All right, fuck it. Like, that's like a cool action. It's not an action movie, but like he just portrays that so well. That's, I was thinking it too, is that it's almost like a regular John, because John Constantine, John Wick are 2 characters that are sort of like the everyday.
Oh, I see. They're like the characters that they are on their face value. He's like, oh, he's just a regular. What is he? An architect in John Wick or something like that? Yeah,
he had some normal job.
Yeah.
And he's a normal guy driving like a nicer car, but he lives in a normal house.
Right. And John Constantine is just a normal guy. He just happens to do exorcisms on his nights.
He's wearing a suit the whole time.
Yeah.
But it's not like a fancy suit. Right. It's just like like kind of a little bit disheveled.
Yeah.
And
I wrote here. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to like backtrack too far when we get too ahead of my notes, because we're gonna follow my notes.
Okay, follow your notes.
No. What about your notes? You bringing them up? You haven't done it? Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote mysterious characters, and that includes the priest when he like is downstairs, and more importantly was the man with the coin. So I think as soon as John is coming out of the building, you see a silhouette, and I notice it because you see him playing with the coin on his fingers. Very similar to like most people have seen
Casino Royale.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, that one too.
Casino Royale when they were playing with the chips. And the guy... Oh, but he's just flipping the chips over and just flipping... That's just like a poker chip trick. But I'm
it's
talking like
villain,
playing with the coins specifically. Like, that is the signature move of someone who has spent hours. It's also in American Gods. I don't know if you've ever seen that. The Leprechaun does that.
American Gods is a huge thing that I was going to tell you about, that a lot of themes... If you watched Constantine or American Gods, you would like the other one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I need to get back on the American Gods.
Season 2, you gotta watch it.
Oh yeah,
it's good. It's actually better in some ways than season 1.
Okay. I forgot where I am. So I wrote mysterious characters because they're introduced. You see who they are, but there's no introduction. It's not like John goes up to him, "Hey, so and so, how are you doing with your such and such job, and how's the fam?" Blah, blah. There's none of that introduction. You see this brief glimpse of this person up the stairs. All the characters are just kind of like, here's the character, and we're gonna keep it mysterious for now. We're gonna like slowly reel you into like everyone
it's
else.
Show don't tell,
right?
Which is a basic good movie. Is it utilize the fact that you have screen time means that people are watching how the characters are dressed, their facial expressions, what words they're saying with dialogue. That tells you so much more than just an introduction, like a formalized so and so in like in a book or something.
Sometimes you actually remember the words that are spoken in a rapid transitional type scene. Like, you're not going to remember that stuff.
No, and that's an awesome part of like the art of movies, is that they show, like, good directors, they show you what they want to show you. They don't force it to you. Like, we're going to show you this now, or having two characters introduced and within the first second tell them what they do, or I'm an astronaut, I do this. It's like, I want to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give me a scene of you in
doing it.
Yeah.
I want to infer
on the space station. All right, now you're an astronaut.
Something like, I want to interact as a watcher of movies. I want to interact with the movie. I want to figure it out my own.
Do you think that's a product of your like history with movies? Because I'd say most people kind of enjoy being like spoon fed that type of stuff.
I don't think people enjoy. I think it's a fundamental part of making a good movie is don't be a little subtle. I think every good director can learn from that, or demonstrates that.
But by saying a good movie who uses those tropes and techniques,
if you don't do that,
it appeals to the audience that already has that type of appreciation for that type of subtlety and reading between the lines of a movie. If you're just going for the general audience, spoon feeding them tends to be more successful.
I think general audiences won't notice that it's happening, but they'll like seeing if it's not just snub-nosed, like on the nose, just given to you, but that they can figure it out a little bit.
Okay.
And
like
they won't even realize.
Like 20%, 30%, and then they get the...
Yeah, and you and me know what's happening. We're sitting here talking about it, analyzing it. Most people don't analyze it, but I think they would enjoy that more. I think that's what makes a good movie. Like, if you ask me what makes a good song or a good piece of music, it would be the way the notes work together. It sounds pleasant to the ear, and then it kind of goes back, and then it sort of takes you in a direction you didn't know, and then it uses good guitar, good bass, good drum set, and you want to be subtle, you want to bring it up, you want to have a crescendo. Those are the fundamentals of making a good song. Making a good movie, it's the same sort of tropes. You have good dialogue, good vibrant scenes, or maybe drab scenes, and that's your movie. Like noir, like film noir has very like black and white scenes, but they utilize good shading. Introduction of characters, you want to have a character that's sort of everybody can relate to. The fact that John Wick's dog dies, it's like everyone sort of connects with that. And you and me can analyze that and say, oh, why is it that the dog died and that's impactful? It's because his wife gave him the dog and his wife's dying of cancer. General audiences just know, oh, the dog died.
And still gets the same...
Yeah.
Has the same effect.
So is that answering...
Sure.
Yeah, good.
I just wanted to see what your opinion was. I knew that I'd get...
Do you have an opinion on that?
Strike the gold. No.
Okay.
No.
Listen,
I like both approaches. Obviously, both have their merits. I think you can just spoon-fed the general audience, and that'll get the point across, and we're going to make this AAA title to, like Endgame. You're just going to give them all the hints and the cookies. There's not going to be like a Hansel and Gretel type figure out this stuff. It's just going to be, here's all the points, and enjoy this great piece that we took all this work on. All this work in.
One thing that if you do make a really like awkward or jarring introduction between two characters, or your main character first time he's on screen, and you're like, he walks up to someone, shakes someone's hand, says, I'm John Constantine, I'm a demon hunter. The audience, it's not sexy. Like, it's not like none of us, nobody would like that. There's no allure. There's no draw. And so, the distinction between a movie critic watching this or a general audience, both want that allure or that draw. The critic is going to analyze it further, but the audience, they just want it. Like, anybody would like a cool action guy who comes in, beats people up, saves a bunch of people, and doesn't say a word about it. Like, everyone likes that. That's well established. Yeah.
That's a good point. Let's see. My next note was when Angela enters the church, they have the camera technique that they use. So if you remember, is that they're following behind her as she's walking down the aisle towards the pulpit or whatever, the central area.
In a large church.
And it's a really big church, and then they're following behind her, and they're following and increasing the depth of the shot as well, while at the same time. And I thought that was like, what a cool shot.
Describe how
short.
the camera moves. The camera goes forward.
It's following behind her as she's walking down the aisle, and while it's doing that, the depth of the shot is expanding in front of her. But as your perspective, you just think it's just this shot, this generic. I guess I don't.
It almost looks like a dolly shot. Yeah, we don't have a film background that we know all these are basic stuff that anybody on a movie set would know, but we don't know. But I think it's like a dolly shot where you have the camera on a track and then you have it just following the character and just moving forward. They could have just done that. It would have been a static shot. It would have worked. It would have done the job. But as they were going forward, they're messing with the distance and the zoom and the lens. They're changing it. That makes for a more impactful scene, and you have huge towering artwork that she's walking towards, and
it gives you this sense of like she's entering a much bigger, much larger space than what that shot gave you. It's like, sure, you can just put this camera on the floor and you can have this woman walk past and down the aisle.
It would work.
If instead we're gonna follow her a little bit and then we're gonna like, it wasn't just like a slow thing. It was like added 50 feet in a second of
depth of field of vision that you could see.
No, it wasn't field of vision. Okay. So it literally like would extend. It just made everything is pushing everything far away. I don't know what that technique is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure if you go back, you understand what I'm talking about. But
dude, we could actually throw the scene up. Why don't we just throw the scene? I'll try to edit it in.
Oh, I see.
No guarantees on that, but like we'll try to put it in.
Yeah.
Because it's worth watching.
Yeah, I thought it was just a cool little thing, and I wrote a note about it. So.
Absolutely.
You were talking earlier about they use not trinkets, props.
Props. The use of props was awesome.
She takes her gun off when she gets home after her whole interaction with.
So she goes to church for confession.
Right.
She confesses that she's not
confession. I thought she went there to ask the priest for help. Like, hey, my sister just killed herself.
No, she went for a confession at first, and then she said, "I've killed 2 people today. I'm a cop. Most cops don't take out their gun in 20 years of service."
I was probably writing or doing something else, but I didn't miss that because I was like, oh, the characters are maintaining their mysterious attitude of, oh, you don't know she's a cop until I saw her whip out her badge for John when she goes to his apartment.
Yeah, it turns out she's a detective.
Oh, she's a detective.
And another shot that was like right before this is that her sister, who's in a psychiatric hospital, jumps off of the top.
That's kind of a major scene. Are you sure that was first? Well, I would have wrote something. For sure I thought it would have wrote something.
Maybe it was first. Maybe it was after. I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're not trying to recount the movie. We're just trying to analyze it.
Yeah, this is after.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's after, because she goes to bed, and this is where she's dreaming. And I was like, oh, so she's dreaming. And then she wakes up. I was like, oh, this is fake, because we know it's a dream. We just saw her go to sleep. Turns out, she's got a fucking twin sister.
That's her twin sister. Because I was confused at that, too. I was like, wait, what? She killed herself?
Yeah, she just killed herself. But it's a dream, so that must not be true. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, no, there's a real body. And then she shows up, and she, like, reveals the body while it's on the floor of that.
Yeah, that was a what the fuck scene.
I was like, wait. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to just sit back and, like, figure out what's going on.
Yeah, she shows up to... like, a pool? Like, what do you think that was? Was that a psychiatric?
Yeah, it was a pool. No, it was a psychiatric hospital. That's like your rehab pool.
Okay, rehab pool. Because they kind of have medical equipment in the back.
Yeah. Shock therapy sometimes.
Yeah.
It's got a different schedule throughout the day. You got shock therapy in the morning. Like, jump in, we're going to give you a little jolt. Then later we'll get the older people.
Jazzercise.
The water buffalo. We'll get them in the pool. You guys can do your high leg, or your knee kicks. What is it called? Yeah. And then
you know a lot about this movie.
I'd say then we'll have at 5 o'clock we'll have the movie poolside.
Okay.
You guys can hop in the water while we throw this movie on the on the projector.
It reminds me of I just played The Evil Within, and if anyone's played that game, there's like the final scene. They're doing medical experiments on people that are possessed, and there's a pool like that, and you got to fight a bunch of demons, and They came out way after Constantine, but it's like maybe they were.
Yeah.
All this stuff connects. Yeah.
You can pull that stuff from.
There's something about using water. Water represents like I read this from Jordan Peterson, who's a clinical psychologist, and he talks about all this stuff, and he talks about myths and like mythical. Why is the main character a young man on a journey and has to defeat the dragon and save the maiden and all that? What that all means. And water traditionally means chaos and an other world and like that feminine chaotic energy. And so when you have water, it's kind of like a portal to another dimension.
I see.
And yeah, it's
totally like opening a kind of a door into a, like as soon as you bring water, or like when she falls off the top of the hospital and breaks,
she crashes through
the glass and splashes into the water, and the scene ends, right? Like that's where she wakes up.
No, like I think the scene kind of like fades from there, and
she wakes up in bed, right?
I believe that's when she wakes up in bed, and
she kind of like jolts out of bed, like, oh, did that really happen? And then she kind of like knows already that her sister died. And
later on, we don't know at the time, but that's actually a premonition that she has. She's got so people in this world, in this universe, some of them like Constantine and the two twin sisters can see demons, and the priest included can see the other side. Beyond the normal veil of the world, they can see the world of angels and demons, and
right.
But even those angels and demons, those are mid-level people, and those aren't the big players. The big players are like God and Satan, and they don't show up into the world unless they have a really good reason to. And yeah, so you don't know at the time, but she's actually seeing her sister, because she had a connection with her sister, but she had repressed that ability to see the world of angels and demons since she was young. But her sister had not repressed that, and so because of that, she was in a psychiatric hospital because she couldn't handle it. And so she kills herself, and her sister can't believe that her sister would kill herself. And so the main character that we're following, the detective,
Angela,
also
played by
Rachel Weisz.
I
think they were both played by Rachel Weisz. So they were twin sisters. They looked alike.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That's why we were so confused when we saw her jump off the bridge and then wake up. We're like, jump off the building.
Yeah, jump off the
I wrote here that I need to rewatch that fall scene of her jumping off.
Okay.
So from her turning around and saying... Well, actually, we don't see that, because we don't know that she says Constantine until she goes back and looks on the computer.
Yes.
But when she turns around, says something that we can't...
She sees a camera. So she's a psych patient, but she looks around, sees the camera that's filming, because there's a video footage on top of the building.
Right.
And she looks around and says Constantine to the camera, knowing that her sister would review the footage later. Right. So she's played by all this stuff, and she ends up killing herself.
Yeah. But she still has she still knows that Constantine can help her.
Yes.
And that this is her last... That was her last kind of like breakthrough. Like that was actually that woman breaking through the possession of the demon to reach out and be like, all I have to say is this one word, and then it's all over then anyway. And I was caught by the way that she fell off the building. It was like she falls off, and then it kind of like the camera kind of follows her over the edge, and then she falls down into the pool, and the camera switches to under the glass, and she breaks through the glass, and the camera switches to under the water as she like smacks into the water.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that's a good 30-second scene of just the way they decided to shoot it, from which angle.
Definitely purposeful, because you want to take that kind of like, oh my god, this woman just crashed through this, and look at all the bad shit that happened to her. And then sometimes most movies will just be like, oh, she fell over the building. You see her body cross the plane, fall down. All right, switch scenes. You will let the audience infer what happened to that person. No, this movie is like, we're gonna show this. We're gonna brutalize a little bit more. They show her
like it was a violent thing, like crashing through a skylight full of window, which is like just this
loud splash into the water. And it's not just like a top down where most bodies falling into the water, usually people would do a top down, or most cinematographers will do a top down shot
and a big splash or whatever,
right. And then you lose track of the body anyway. Well, in this one you're looking under, and this person comes over the top of
breaks the surface of the water. kind of
glass breaking through, and you just kind of see this body kind of splash into this water.
And I remember that.
Then it cuts.
And I don't know if this is my recollection of it. Her hair is kind of like going all over the place in the water, and
makes her look a little bit more like demonized, I guess.
Yeah.
Less human.
Yeah. There's blood.
Yeah.
And she's
right. Yeah. And then it cuts, and then it goes, and then her sister wakes up. But I was like, rewatch the fall scene just to get a better grasp of what was going on there. Like, try to microanalyze.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wrote next, probably a few scenes later, that John's got nothing to lose. Because I think that's when he goes to the doctor, and she tells him, oh, it's looking bad. And nowhere is it explicitly said in that scene that he has lung cancer.
It's true.
But he's chain smoking. Every scene that you see John in, he's either finishing a cigarette, lighting a cigarette, or he's got a cigarette in his hand.
Which, by the way, I love. It's such a good prop in movies to have actors convey emotion by smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, you were saying you personally love it.
I love it.
Because there's so much that you can do with a cigarette, or...
The way a character smokes a cigarette tells you so much. They could be smoking it fast, they're nervous, they're jittery. They could be doing it slow, cool, calm, collected. They could be like I don't remember what movie it is now, but it's like there's some movie out there where some guy's about to light a cigarette and he gets interrupted and he talks and he makes a point and he does it again and gets interrupted and he does it again. And then at this point, you're just, the whole scene is like 4 minutes of you of you watching, but he's so cool and calm and he doesn't even care about lighting it. And it's just that tells you this.
Viewers, I remember that scene. I just don't remember what it's from.
I don't remember.
So if any of you listening, you know what scene we're talking about.
Throw a comment.
Shh.
Or just anything like that.
Hit us up somewhere. Yeah, just let us know that movie.
We want to make ourselves available so that anybody who wants to interact with this, or we want to talk.
Well, yeah, because literally what they can do is just show us a comment. You can give us a link to the movie, and we could probably throw something up, while this is... Yeah. Give some reference while we're talking about it,
I am always down to... I want to do screenshots and things like the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or we can even do short clips. I just know we get into weird stuff with copyright.
Right.
I don't want us to get taken down because the point of us is watching the movie and talking about it.
Right. But we don't need that stuff, but we would like it, and if it doesn't step on anyone's toes.
And this is not a video essay.
Right.
I'm not going to sit there and edit all this footage and put it together. I want a podcast. I want to talk about it.
We don't got that kind of time.
I don't got that kind of time or interest.
No one's gonna give me that kind of money.
No one pay me.
I love movies, but not that much.
I like talking, dude. It's easy.
Literally just turn on the mic.
Yep. Do you want to hit on that scene anymore? It was kind of a doctor. All it was a shot of a doctor with an X-ray, and the lungs are kind of like black.
X-ray? There was at least 40 X-rays on this person's screen, and you got zoomed in on one, and it, unless you're a doctor, you don't have any idea what you're looking at.
Well, you're looking at his lungs with black all over them.
Yeah.
And then
you could.
He looks down at the cigarette. He's like, of all the things I've fought and all the things I've killed over the years, this is what does me in.
Yeah. And that's almost the exact quote. That's pretty good.
Yeah. It was just so cool. It shows his backstory and how much he hates this thing, and he takes a drag, and it's like...
I literally write, smoking in the hospital level. He lights it up in the office with her. He's like,
dude, a lot of smoking inside.
Yeah.
You don't see that.
He finishes that cigarette in that office, and as he's walking out, he lights up another one in the hallway while he walks out.
When was the last time you saw someone smoking inside?
Wow. It's probably been like 15 years.
Yeah.
No, that's not that long. I think this. I like to bowl a lot. I go bowling.
Okay.
Or I did.
Well, yeah, bowling you could smoke
bowling
inside.
alleys you could smoke inside.
Do they still smoke inside?
I don't think so.
I went to a pool hall a couple years ago, and everyone's smoking inside the pool hall. But that's kind of a place to smoke.
Yeah, and those are specific to them as well.
Yeah, everyone's drinking and smoking. Which, by the way, pool halls are fun.
Yeah. Which is the one that lets you smoke inside?
Here? Like Spats?
Oh, yeah, Spats.
I've never been there, but I just heard. Yeah. Playing pool is fun with sketchy people.
I would go there with like some of my friends after working on Park Ave because we could just walk over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a couple drinks and...
Yep. Play some pool.
Play some pool.
My next note after he walks... Oh, did you want to talk about more of the cancer scene? Or
No.
I did like that quote, like, of all the things. Of all the things. this little thing, and it just like zooms in on the cigarette, is gonna do me in.
Further insight into his worldview of he just doesn't care about anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, no family. He's kind of alone, nihilistic. Yeah, it's just a cool character with a cool worldview.
Right.
Don't give a fuck attitude.
Yeah. I think the next scene we get, we flash back to the sword bearer, and this is where the
spear,
the spear,
the
bearer,
guy who has the spear, yeah,
that we don't know is, I guess, the devil's son. This is the scene where he walks through the pasture.
Okay.
And it's a pasture, and there's a bunch of
cows grazing,
cows or bison or something.
It looks like it's Texas or North Mexico. Yeah.
Something. Yeah, obviously it has to be like.
Yeah.
It's probably Texas with cattle, and so he's just walking through, and it's like
a wave of death
that just surrounds him as he walks. And anytime he comes, as he goes further in, he just kills all the shit. And these things literally like decompose within seconds. Like a whole cow is just.
That was
absorbed.
A great CGI scene.
Yeah,
because it was
so dark that you didn't have to do too much detail. But as long as you got the gist across, and you saw this person walking and these cows just have these repeatedly things fall over and then kind of like disappear into dust. It was like, did he absorb their life? Did he just kill him? Is that just
well? You don't know what the spear is about.
What the spear is doing?
You just know it's some sort of artifact, and you have no idea at this point.
I think the first time I saw that, I was like getting hyped. I was like, all right, we're gonna see some real like god battle shit. Let's go.
Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah,
It's a good. In a movie like this, it's so good to have just throwaway scenes, just quick, easy. Let's shoot it. Low lighting in a field. Pretty sure the cows are all CGI'd. You just have a guy walking.
Those are real cows, dude.
Shut the fuck up.
You didn't know?
Shut up.
There was a disclaimer at the end.
We're so sorry.
Only 21 cows died in this film.
Fucking idiot.
We ate them after every. We had to do 5 retakes, give or take. So that's what we used for dinner for the rest of the shot.
Oh my god. And so then what brings Constantine in to go see Gabriel? Do you remember why?
That's the same scene where Angela goes in to talk to the priest. Remember?
That's when they first meet, John
right.
and Angela, the detective. They first meet up outside of. Why did they show up in the first place?
Why were they in the same spot? Was it the hospital?
Angela wanted to go ask about her sister because she thinks that her sister, there's no way that she would kill herself.
And is that the first interaction we have between John and Angela? Is they were both waiting to see the priest, and Angela walks up and like, I'm a woman, and he's like, I was here first, and they walk in together anyway.
They call that a when two romantic people first meet on time in the screen. There's 4 ways to shoot it. There's push push, pull pull, push pull, and pull push. And
can you do that again?
Yeah, the man and the woman. In this case, it was both push push. Yeah. Like there wasn't like one person pulling, or maybe it was like Angela pulling a little bit because she was trying to get inside the elevator, and he closes the door on her. Like he could have let it open, and he just doesn't care, and he lets it go.
Oh, that is their first interaction. Okay, then the second interaction that's why she made that comment about like, oh, I know you, or you again, or whatever she said when they're in the church.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you an asshole to everybody, or or just women, or something like that? Yeah, like. Yeah. Are you an asshole to everybody you meet?
Yeah.
And he just like smokes. Like he doesn't care.
He just remains stoic. Yeah.
And they're both fighting to talk to Gabriel, the archangel. And they're like in line, and they both.
This is the first I noted here. This is the first time that he explains, or the first time that something is explained that happened. And so when he's talking to Gabriel, who was played by a really good actor too, or actress. I just don't remember her name, but this is the first time he explains what happened in the exorcism with the girl. So he kind of gives you some details. All right, that was a demon.
Can we talk about Gabriel the angel? That was awesome casting.
Sure.
So they say you actually had watched this movie with subtitles on, which I usually tend not to do.
Right.
But
because you've already seen it. Yeah.
I enjoyed. Yeah. Subtitles I find distracting.
I feel like it's distracting in the first time that you watch it. But the second time, I like to turn subtitles on. That way, stuff that
I'm a fan now.
that I couldn't hear, or that was blurbed up, or sometimes they'll whisper something under the breath and the subtitles will still show what they say, and you're like, oh, that's what they said, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have caught that because it was either so low.
It's almost like having a script in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you're analyzing, okay, I see what they're saying.
Right.
And yes, yeah. I was a fan of the subtitles.
Okay.
And they said, are you here to see him? And him, they were referring to Gabriel, the angel. But Gabriel is played by a woman, very androgynous features, kind of looks like...
Was it a capital him?
No, it was a lowercase him. They were talking about the Gabriel.
Okay.
And they go see Gabriel, and Gabriel's... we should look up what the actress's name is. We'll put a picture on.
Yeah.
And
I can never remember her name. But she's always done, like, great.
Yeah.
She
killed it with this one. Snowpiercer, I think that... Is that what this...
Snowpiercer, and I want to say, like, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, she played the Ice Queen or something like that.
Sure.
And that was, like, a big role.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
Or it was impactful to me that she did well.
It's a big thing in Sandman. Those comics where you have characters that look male and female and like a very feminine face but dressed in a suit, very thin, very angelic. Like, oh, if this was a guy, the way the character's face looked is just very angelic and sharp features but sort of soft on the eyes a little bit, if that makes sense. Very like clean cut business suit.
Oh yeah,
very
she
thin.
was. She had like the double knot tie ready to go, and everything was just ship shape on the suit. And then her hair was just kind of like
perfect,
naturally beautiful, I guess,
yes.
in a way. Yeah. And
Perfect casting.
Of course, she has like a naturally blemish-less face. Like there's no
no marks on it.
Yeah. And it didn't look like it was makeup either, and I'm sure there's some amount that was added
of course
on.
There's makeup, but looks
flawless.
natural, like a very flawless, natural, like perfect human being.
Yeah, right. But she's not human.
She's not human, as it turns out. She's a halfling.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why she exists in our world.
Mm-hmm.
So they
not in our world, in John's world.
In John's world, which I like that they made a distinction,
mm-hmm.
that this is not the world that you live in. There's rules to this world, and I wrote that down on my notes of how this world is set up. You gonna browse through those?
Yeah, I'm gonna browse through your notes, dude, because you're not picking them up. I might as well.
No, I still haven't, because we're starting right now on where I started to take notes.
Oh, because your other notes are at work.
Yeah,
I forgot.
That's okay.
I was like,
yeah, I got a plan here.
I guess I'll just lead this whole thing then.
I guess we're just going through everything I did. Stand there and look pretty, Michael.
If I browse this room, I can probably find your notes.
I don't know. No, I think they are at work.
Yeah, definitely.
But she's standing. She's kind of like taller than real life. She looks like a very tall, imposing figure.
She's a tall character.
Character.
She's a tall person in real life
yes.
as well, so that helped.
Almost like a Brianna of
Tar,
like, but kind of really good looking. Kind of that tall
sure.
Joan of Arc.
It had the masculinity a little bit of Brienne of Tar, but still very feminine.
Yeah.
She wasn't as bulky.
It looked like an angel.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was like, right. Oh, that's a badass angel.
Yeah, and you're also expecting Gabriel, some guy, and all of a sudden
you get
this chick shows up, and you're like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, but she plays a male character throughout the entire thing.
Right.
It's just very androgynous.
Yeah.
I love it. She's looking down at a fireplace, just looking down on it, and opening shot is her with wings, and the wings were on screen for a very short amount of time, but they were CGI, but they look good,
mm-hmm.
and they were huge. They were massive, like these huge
black wings.
12-foot long wings, like, and then they disappear, and that kind of shows you that Constantine can view and see what she really is, but then that goes away for the
rest of us. Yeah. We don't want to spend that much money on the CGI. We don't need wings this whole conversation.
Yeah. And so what I wrote down was there was an epic scale. So what I really like is that this movie takes from, they could have made this really like boring and flat, but no, they really ramped it up. That the stakes are super high, like biblical imagery, like you already mentioned about the church, philosophical, existential. This is beyond human life. Like, human life doesn't even matter. Like, it's John Constantine's about to die within a year, and he doesn't even care.
Right.
So it's not about that. It's not about mortals.
He gives even a less of a fuck now after he finds out about his diagnosis than he did in the first couple minutes of the scene. And we already thought at that point that he was kind of like that nonchalant, like, I don't care what's going on around me.
So really, he doesn't care.
That, or he just like so confident that it doesn't matter what happens, he knows that he's going to be able to handle it, type of thing.
Yeah. And, well, because the normal everyday part of life is not a concern for him, because he's seen stuff beyond the veil, beyond the normal, where it's about him trying to get to heaven versus going to hell. Because he says, like, I already know where I'm going. Yeah. I think that's the final part of that ends the medical scene.
Oh, yeah. He walks out the door. I already know where I'm going anyway.
Yeah. He already knows, and then you just infer, oh, this guy's going to hell. What was
the doctor's quote to make him say? What was her question?
Aren't you worried? Like, you've been smoking 3 packs of cigarettes for the past 15 since you were 15. And
he's like, I already know where
I've got a year to live. I already know where I'm going. I'm not worried about it.
Right.
Like, don't you think you should stop? Like, yeah, or something like that. I think that's how it went. And so I just like that the scale of the movie was ramped up, because you're meeting an angel. He explains about the exorcism that he just occurred, but he talks to Gabriel about how this exorcism was different. The demons are being more...
It felt like a soldier. Like a demon soldier, instead of just like some random demon they got into this body. No, this is someone who's been trained. Yeah.
Something big is brewing beyond the other world. And we don't know, this is a spoiler for the rest of the movie, is that Gabriel is actually working with the son of Satan, and they're teaming up together and planning to cause chaos and overthrow God or whatever.
No, I thought they just wanted to take over the human world.
Sure. Yeah, maybe that was it.
Because Lucifer owns hell and God owns heaven.
Yeah.
And
they made a bet over this is worth mentioning right now. Reminds me of American Gods. I wrote it down. So this is an alternate universe where God and Satan are having a wager over the human, and they're just trying to influence people to be, whether they're going to go to heaven or hell. Right. And so it's just a game that they're playing.
Right.
So our traditional view of Christianity, heaven and hell, it's not about that. It's about neither of them give a shit about the world. Satan's just trying to send his people down to get people to go to hell, and God's trying to do the same. They're almost like a game that they're playing.
Right.
And Constantine,
they're fighting over our souls.
Yeah, and it's just not a big deal. And so that's why Constantine thinks this is all nonsense, because I already know which side I'm going on. And he actually, a little bit of backstory of him that we find out later is that he killed himself when he was a young man. They didn't say what age, but it was like 17 or.
It's probably before he was 15, right?
Before he was 15, he was a young kid.
Maybe you could assume that he started smoking after he did that.
Oh, that's right, because he since he was a little kid, he could see the demons, and so he got freaked out, killed himself. He was gone for 2 minutes, 2 minutes in hell, gets out of there, and forever he's
got the vision.
He's got the vision, but it started before that. He's always been able to have the vision. And he's been trying to work by killing demons so that he could work himself back into heaven.
Oh, yeah. But
you can't. It's a mortal sin.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is why Angela is so worried about her sister, but her sister was possessed.
Yeah.
So.
Moral of the story, just don't be Catholic.
Just don't be Catholic. It's too complicated.
You got a grip of what he did in that scene. I wrote Chaz is a slave. So I think he walks out of the church and he's walking along with Chaz, and Chaz is just, mouthing off.
Chaz is his little bitch.
Get the car. Get the car. Get this. Do this. Do this. And Chaz is like, okay. Okay, John. Whatever.
No, he's fighting back, but he's still doing it.
Right.
It's like, what? Like, am I ever going to not be the driver? This
doesn't make sense. It's like any student's kind of typical response of like, oh, fine, I'll move the car 5 feet. And it's like, come on. Take some initiative, you child.
I love that interaction.
We met Gabriel. Angela is the name of the girl we met.
There was a scene where he is going into like a nightclub or something, and a perfect circle was playing, which is a band by the lead singer of Tool, Maynard James Keenan. Turns out Tool was taking forever to write, because as a band they collectively write their songs, and kind of Maynard just shows up and sings, and he's like, dude, we take like 10-15 years to write an album, like I gotta go off and do other stuff. So he started his own band, A Perfect Circle, which was big in the 2000s, and I still think they're making music, but it's kind of got that certain, for that 10-15 year period of time where they actually had bands, like there were like a bunch of screamo bands, a bunch of metal bands. Nowadays they don't have bands like that. Like they don't have, when was the last time you heard of like a rock band getting together and playing shows? I guess Metallica's still around, but
I'd say most bands go on tours. They just go on tours like them together themselves, but it's not like it used to be where you could get a band together and it was like, oh, everyone wants to go to this show, and now it's kind of like, oh yeah, who enjoys rock? All right, you guys can go have these shows, but the rest of the nation kind of is like, you know, top 15, top 10.
There's rappers, there's electronic music, there's DJs.
It's music is so much more populated now that it's tough to like have
it's still good. I still like music.
Rock following, yeah.
It's not like it was better back in the 2000s, but like bands like Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Depeche Mode, let's see, what else? Like, we already kind of talked about Tool, but like A Perfect Circle. Like, it was a good capture of that band and the music that was playing
during that time.
For
That's true. Yeah.
You know, that
most of that music in that was rock. Like,
yeah,
and it was just like a 30-minute extra of like a really good.
But
rock
it was artistic rock. It was like progressive rock. It wasn't like rock music, Nickelback or some shit. Like, it was they were.
That's not rock.
It's kind of creepy, not creepy, but you know what I mean, like little artistic, little out there kind of music. And it was kind of cool watching that, because when I first watched that movie, I had no idea about this band. Later on, I listened to this band. I listened to a bunch of their music, a bunch of their songs.
Okay.
And then I watched it again here. I'm like, oh shit, that's two artists that are in the same medium together. That's so cool. Yeah. It's like synchronicity, or
right, that they transgress on that line type thing. Not transgress.
No, it just are both there.
Yeah.
That's
that they align up on that moment.
Yeah. Was it Bob Ross? He would call them happy little coincidences. Happy little coincidence, because he messed up one time on a painting. And he turned into a bird. He's like, it's just a happy little coincidence now. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Bob Ross, the painter.
Oh, yeah.
When he's painting on his show, the TV show, he messed up something. He's like, we'll just fix that. That's a happy little accident. Dude, fall asleep to him. It's the best.
That's funny. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You say that. I wrote here, Gabriel says John is fucked. Does she actually say that? Or is that my interpretation? Does she say you're fucked? Because that's why I would have wrote that. Like,
maybe she did. I don't remember. But it was impactful. She was giving him a sentence.
Yeah, like, you have no chance or something like that. That's pretty much, you're fucked. The next thing I think we see the bald guy, the bald priest. We've learned he has ability. Because you see him, like, put his hands over the newspaper, and somehow he can hear the abilities of what they're doing. So it's kind of like very methodical and slow of like how this movie's gonna, alright, little by little we're gonna trickle the information to you about what's kind of like going on. I like that. Oh, we saw the editing detail in the computer player.
Oh, this is such a small little scene.
It was just so funny.
I'm gonna throw a screenshot.
Of course, they throw it down. Yeah.
It's like you're clicking the wrong button to go back on the footage.
Yeah, so Angela goes to the mental hospital and is reviewing the footage of watching her sister jump off the roof.
Yeah.
And this is where she discovers that her sister says Constantine before she jumps.
Yeah.
And
they rewind it.
They do a close-up of the screen that she's watching on, and the mouse cursor goes over the button and clicks the wrong button.
It's the back button, like if you were to back up on a scene or restart the video.
Yeah, that button for me is like switch to the other video or skip all the way back to the beginning. And all I did was rewind it a little bit, and she went right along.
It's like,
and you're like, you pointed out to me, you're like, dude, isn't that the wrong button? I was like, I don't know. We rewound it just to figure out. Oh yeah, they messed that one up. They missed that one in post.
You know what breaks my brain is that this is like a multi-million-dollar movie, And
Dude, back then it didn't matter. You could press
add
either
in,
button and
you
it
add
worked.
in a little bit of a clear screw up, and it's like you're fucking up the work of art that people spent millions of man hours or hundreds of thousands of man hours on a stupid little mess up. It's like, why don't you have editors like looking at this thing for like hundreds of times? Like, I don't know, but it doesn't matter.
It's such a small detail that only like that's probably something on the millennials will even picked up. Like every other generation before us, like
Nobody cares about
that's
it.
about right.
I'm the only one that cares.
Next, I wrote creepy phone ringer scene. I don't know why I wrote it like that, but this is the scene where I think Angela's having a dream and not a dream. I guess she's at the computer or something, and her phone rings. She picks it up. Hello, no one's there. And another phone rings. So she picks it up. Hello, and no one's there. And another phone rings instantly, and all these phones are ringing. Blah blah blah. And it gets really shrill and loud, and then it cuts off. And that's like another transition of like, all right, back to like slow, methodical. Here's John doing what John's doing.
A quick point on that is that it kind of shows the times where they had, what would you call those, like digital phones? Like the ringer was not, it wasn't like people had house phones in 2005. Like I grew up with a phone in my house. Like nobody has phones anymore. It's all cell phone.
I wouldn't say nobody, but the majority of people have cut the cord, yeah.
Nobody, millennials that live together or live alone or...
Millennials are... There's nobody else besides millennials?
No, I'm just saying, like, people our age, nobody has a house phone. Now, I mean, yes, people do have house phones, but it kind of had that digital ring, and then her fax machine started ringing, and you wouldn't shoot that scene that way and if the movie came out now.
Right. You couldn't.
You couldn't.
It logistically wouldn't make sense because no one has that phone. That's right.
Yeah.
And then next we meet the Balthazar.
Yeah, talk about him. I love him.
Another like clean, well put together like character. Like,
$1,000 suit.
Yeah, $1,000 suit. His hair is combed over real nice. He's got that professional
Chiseled.
model. Yeah, chiseled face. He's got the dressed up suit as well. His tie is really done well. He's in a suit and he's got his coin thing going. Like,
yes,
he's either got it in his hand or he's playing with it while he's talking, and you can tell he's kind of like a dark character.
Well, his face was
Silhouetted or in the dark.
It was in the dark, and
Right.
it kind of comes out into the light
Yeah.
and gets revealed.
Right.
And perfect form. Kind of reminds me of American Psycho.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that 80s businessman, very like...
Christian Bale has a chiseled face.
Yeah.
Especially when he's younger.
Especially when he's younger. Do you remember anything more about that scene? I'm sort of struggling at this point, but like...
I wrote there was lots of fun and crazy tricks used by the camera. So in that scene, like the camera almost tilted to like a 45-degree angle, and that's like how you watched the camera itself. So you knew that they were still in this office talking with whoever, and then the camera kind of like switched up. It kind of just like tilted a little bit
didn't
to like
notice
a
that.
40-degree angle or something like that, and it still kept going. And it was just kind of like put Balthazar on a little bit of an upper edge just because that's how the angle was portrayed, and that was just like a little interesting trick that they did there.
Now, was this scene that you're remembering? Because I don't remember it.
It was when Balthazar and John were talking. He
Okay.
gets like, and I forget his name, Midnight, played by... I can never remember his name.
Is a black actor
Yeah.
that he's kind of been in... he was in King Arthur, wasn't he?
Yes. He also played like...
In 300. He was also in 300, I want to say.
Yeah, he was the guy that gets pushed over by
Yeah,
Leonidas
gets
into
kicked,
the pit.
yeah.
Is he in Blood Diamond?
He might be in Blood Diamond.
He's the dad in Blood Diamond, right?
I haven't seen that movie. You've seen that movie recently. I won't remember. But he's got a very interesting like movie, like a face to put on a screen.
Right.
Just something's drawn to a lot of times he has like a goatee that's like white hair, and it's very like striking and stark contrast. And yeah, he plays Midnight, which is this
Neutral demigod? Nah.
yeah,
Neutral half-breed, I guess, who's chosen instead of choosing light or dark side. I shouldn't say that. Instead of choosing heaven or hell to like kind of like this is going to be a base for one of those two outfits. I'm going to be neutral. That way people can meet or mingle or mediate here so that...
Which is like the Continental in John Wick.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Two different black guys played that.
Yeah, I don't think it was the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
The same.
But kind of the same almost energy, I felt like. Like, this is a neutral place. You're welcome here. I welcome all people to this location, but no killings will happen on this ground.
Yeah, and which is exactly what the Continental is in John Wick. Side note here, you're playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes.
Do you recognize the man's voice yet?
Is it this guy?
It's not the guy from Constantine. It's the guy from
John
Wick 3.
From John Wick 3?
Yeah, or the John Wick movies.
Again,
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, we really should be better about actors' names.
Yeah.
But I don't think our listeners would...
Sure. They can literally Google the cast
Yeah,
while they're
you
listening
should,
to us.
you should watch it and notice who we're talking about.
I also noted that all the times that the camera is most of the time when a character was speaking, the camera was almost like a foot away from their face, if not less.
So it's a close-up.
Yeah. Close-up of almost every time that they were talking by themselves. It's like, boom, right there. It's not just
it's intense.
It's not like sat back where you just have like a good distance between the camera and the person so you can see their upper body or they're talking or walking. It's like, boom, right in your face.
An interesting thing, another movie that did that, this is a classic, 12 Angry Men,
Yep.
the black and white movie.
I almost put that on my top 5, by the way.
Wow, really? I like it. I appreciate the movie. I had to watch it for, I took an ethics, no. I did take an ethics class, but I took a critical thinking class, and they showed that as each of the 12 men, was their argument logically consistent? Was it using, did they fall into any traps of using their biases? Were they clear thinking? And we had to rank which of the jurors in 12 Angry Men had a good argument that kind of followed.
Gotcha.
And what I wanted to say about it is the camera work in that is they started off, it's a very tiny, cramped room in 12 Angry Men, but they're, the camera starts far away from them. And they kind of have multiple people in the shot, but as the intensity gets up and they get angry, they start getting sweaty, they want to get out of the room, they have to deliberate, they have to work with each other, they start getting snappy. An hour into the movie, all the shots become close-ups, and that's the intensity factor that you're talking about.
Yeah. And this is like right away, boom, right in your face. Like,
and it matters
when the priest first shows up in the first scene. It's still like right on his face. Like, he's nervous. You can tell he's nervous. His eyes are darting around. You can tell he's not all right. But you don't know that because you don't know that he has voices in his head until later.
Yeah. And it matters if the camera's above a character and they're looking up or looking down, and then if the camera's below where their face is, like, that has an effect. Yeah. And so I think the camera might have been lower on Balthazar looking up because he's kind of a intimidating above.
Right, I'm looking down at you, but from our perspective, he's looking down on, the person he was talking, or to John, I guess he was talking to there.
Yes. Is this the point where he has to go into hell, and he goes to his apartment? Like, John goes back to his apartment,
and he's sitting alone with a cigarette at his table.
Okay.
And then he's interrupted by someone at the door.
And it turns out to be Angela.
Correct. She flashes the badge. That's where you find out I found out.
That she was, yeah.
And John's like, no, I'm out, or I'm not going to participate, go home or whatever. So he's uncooperative because he's in that kind of like, oh, well, midnight's not going to help me. Balthazar's out there, blah, blah, blah. I got this this cancer problem. So you just get that feeling of like, oh, John just is caring even less and less about what his original goal was of,
or her problems,
or anyone else's problem except his own, and his own are trying to get to heaven because he killed himself.
He's the push, she's the pull. Yeah. She's coming to his apartment because she needs his help to find out about her dead sister.
Yeah.
And
she's like, hey, my sister sent me to you, and she's like,
okay,
I don't want to help you, and she flashes the badge. Now you're gonna let me in, dummy.
And then he has to go into hell, and so the cool way of doing that is that he grabs a cat. He has a cat, and someone mentions, I think he explains to her that cats are half in this world, half in the Veil.
So that scene is after
the
he sends her away, or they have some interaction, and he sends her away, and then he sees all of the demons go by his demon-proof apartment. And he's got holy water, he's got garlic and stuff. There's all that weird stuff.
And he goes outside and gets attacked by a demon, and he makes a comment. Is this...
No, this is where he goes with her. And they're walking down the street, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you should stick around. Like, what was going on? Because now he's worried about her after he saw all those demons pass by his door. And he's like, oh, I got to go protect her. So now he's going to go save her after he was just being uncooperative. And because he heard that key insight from her of like, oh, my sister said your name before she jumped out this bridge, and he was like kind of not caring. And then he sees now that someone might get hurt. He walks out there. He goes to accompany her, and this is where we get the scene of like all the lights shut down in the street. And this was gonna freak some people out. Like if you're not ready for it.
That was a great scene.
I loved it. They're like walking outside.
So they're outside, so it's like a big scene of a city at night.
Right.
Lights up and down the street.
Yep. And you got the street lights, you got shop lights, you got a few cars parked, but no traffic.
Yeah.
There's not people walking around, there's not cars driving by. It's just them, they're talking, and you hear lights shutting off. Like it's just a scene where it's just the two of them talking, but you hear in the background lights going ch, ch, and you hear like stuff flying around in the air, and it keeps getting worse. And as John continued to talk about what is happening, hey, no, you need to be careful, hey, no, come back inside, or I forget what he says, and the lights keep turning off. He's like, hey, we should go.
We need to go. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, you see on the side of the street across from directly from where she's parked, which is obviously deliberate, across the street in a shop is a
Jesus.
No, I thought it was a Mary Magdalene.
Maybe it was. It was a religious biblical figure. It might have been Mary Magdalene. Yeah,
some Catholic figure that the lights couldn't be shut off instantly. Like there's a lot more power from a demon required in order to turn that light off. Yeah. So he goes over there and he's like, "All right, close your eyes," and all the lights are off. Now all the street lights are gone, the car lights are gone. You just have this fading light on this divine figure in this shop window, and it's black. And then John says, close your eyes. And we saw him prep before this, and he does something, and it flashes a bright light, and all the demons get evaporated, I guess, because of whatever happens. And she's freaking out. She's like, what's going on? What kind of world am I gotten myself into? And this is that scene where I was talking about where the bus comes by. I don't know if I said this here or before. Yeah. Anyway, so the scene is like transitioning, and it's going to end, and all of a sudden this bus drives by real loud.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, I was trying to listen. Yeah, I was trying to listen to what they were saying, now you got this like jolting effect, and the scene ends, and it switches back to them being in the apartment. Yeah.
That was great.
That scene reminded me of the first time I saw the movie. I was like, oh yeah, now I'm getting those flashbacks of when I first saw the movie, and this was the scene that I remembered, or just that aspect of the movie of like that jolting.
And it's cool because she doesn't know what's going on, so they start walking, and she starts questioning him, and that's when he explains what this world is like. And he the way he frames it is, I want you to take a hypothetical. What if this world was not as it seems? What if demons were real? And then we don't know at that point, but she can actually see all this, but she's been repressing it for years, as we've sort of gone over.
I thought she couldn't see it, so by repressing that means she can no longer see it, so she can't see any of this stuff.
But at some point that unlocks, and she starts seeing it all over again.
She said it was in her dreams.
Yeah, premonitions. And
yeah.
It's not explicit.
It's not just like something that she can see or turn on and off during the day as she's traveling around.
Yeah. And that's how she also further knows that she needs to trust him to get him to help.
Yeah.
And figure out what's going on. And so it's almost like a detective, like a mystery. So I wanted to get into like what type of movie this is. It's a drama. I almost describe it as like an action film, because at the beginning it almost looks like an action film. You've got an action hero who is going out there killing demons, and
you don't know he's an action hero. This guy's got out of a taxi. He's smoking a cigarette. He's just a regular guy.
To me,
you don't even know he's like an action hero until he whips out a gun halfway through the movie, and he's got fucking golden bullets gonna shoot demons with. But he's not an action hero when he's doing the first excommunication. It's not an action movie in the first intro of the spear.
Okay. I thought of it as one, and it changed. It wasn't a horror film, but it changed to like a mystery film at that point.
Yeah. Well, I always thought it was mysterious. Like one of my first notes was like mysterious characters, and it kind of like I wrote, these transition scenes are so loud or it was so loud with the drive-by and abrupt that if you weren't paying attention, it was going to make you jump back to what's happening. And that adds a layer to that transition of like, if you weren't paying attention, pay attention now, because this next scene might be important to leading on to the rest of the scene. And what happens after that, he's going to go with her and help.
At some point, Constantine realizes that he's got to deal with this. Yeah. He's like, demons are coming into the world, and this is I gotta.
And they're coming after her.
And he's got a reason. He's trying to get into heaven,
yeah.
And it's sort of a hopeless journey because he realizes he can't actually get back to heaven no matter what he does. So and then he makes a decision to go into hell and figure out. He looks for her name was it Lena or
Rachel?
No, Rachel. No, it was Rachel's the actress's name. It was Angela, but then her. Was it Isabel?
Sister's name? Isabel. Yeah.
Isabel. Wrong sister for me.
There was a cool camera trick in there, too. Like, it started at the bottom. It started at the bottom of John sitting in a chair. Once they're back in the apartment, he decides to help her. He's sitting in a chair, and it kind of, like, comes up over them, and you see his shoed feet in a bucket of water. You're like, what's going on here?
No, again, props. He says, I need this, I need that. He gets a bucket of water, puts it down. Like that camera goes up, and it's a weird scene because there's a guy in a suit. Constantine sitting in a suit with nice, and he grabs a cat, and he makes a line of dialogue that says cats are half in this world, half in another world.
This is Isabel's room, right? Is this her original room?
It might have been Constantine's apartment. What do you think it was? Rachel's apartment?
Yeah, because he wanted her to leave, right? Because he wanted the vibe of where she was.
Maybe you're right. I don't remember that detail.
I think they went to either her or his sister's apartment in order for him to be able to transition over and still have a compass point of where she was in hell.
It's so funny that like we don't know the basic stuff. Like people think we're an idiot because we don't. You guys don't. Do you guys watch the movie? It's like we watched it last night. We're like looking.
Dude, when I eat cake, I take all the frosting off, throw that shit away, and I just get straight to that jelly filling.
I think that you said everything.
Best metaphor.
That's good 2019. Enough for me. Yeah, I love that little thing about the cats though, because
I wrote the quote is "Be careful with that cat." When she closes the door, he asks her to leave. She's like, "Be careful with that cat." I was like, "That's quote of the day." I wrote that down
because cats have this like I'm like a dog person, right? I'm not a cat person.
I'm a cat person.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a cat person?
Yeah.
I like you a little bit less now.
Oh. Why?
I don't know. Racism. Against cat people.
Yeah, but what's wrong with cats? Just because they don't...
Dogs are better.
Come and call? Sure, I will give you that dogs are generally smarter.
Cat people think dogs are better.
I don't think dogs are better.
Okay, but they are.
Dogs have their traits, and I just happen to like cats more. I like their nonchalant attitude. It goes right along with my kind of like life of mode of operation.
Yeah, because you don't give a fuck about other people think.
Cats.
Corey, come over here. You're like, nah, I'm gonna do whatever I want, and then you come over anyway when there's food.
Yeah. Power naps during the day, up at night. My attention's caught by birds. Just anything coming in the room, like, oh, whoa, what's that?
Whereas
play with anything.
Dogs, I love like the loyalty, and they're just friendly. They're just a happy thing. Like, I saw a gif of like the Joker. The Joker just came out. It's like him dancing, and then there's like this meme out there with like the little Joker dancing, and like it's like when you do when you're cheering about an achievement you got online, and it's like then your little dog, your little Joker is like
just jumping for no reason,
just happy that you're happy. It's like that's what I like about dogs.
Shout out to all the meme lords out there,
dude.
Thank you guys for creating your content, because you make life so much better.
I've had full text message conversations. People just send a meme, send back,
meme back and forth, meme back and forth, gif,
and it's like a conversation.
We're getting our point across.
Yeah.
Well, we're not getting our point across is how good this movie is.
Yeah. Did you? It was a surprising thing about cats. I was like, cats really are like that almost like a mythical creature a little bit.
Yeah, they always have like some weird thing that you can just throw them into some. What is this called? A fantasy movie. So you can throw them into a fantasy movie and just kind of be like, oh, well, the cat has this ability, or cats let you do this, or The main character's best friend was a cat, or that kind of thing.
and he picks up the cat, and he like sort of feels bad, but he's like, I hate this part, and he stares into the cat's eyes, which is cool because cat's eyes have like rabbit's foot or is lucky. Cat's eyes have like a human skull is an interesting prop that it goes back to like Hamlet. He's talking to a human skull, and like,
what does that have to do with cat eyes? Oh, just because he's looking at the eyes of something living?
Yeah, well, specifically cat's eyes. So cat's eyes, they have the almost like the eye of Sauron looking slit, and staring into a cat's.
Because I want to know what that's called.
What
that slit.
The cat's eyes. What that thing is called?
No, just the way that they don't have a regular human pupil. They have a cat pupil. Why is there? Or maybe they don't. Maybe that's just.
I heard that you can tell the time of day by looking into a cat's eye, because their pupils will how big they are depends on what type of day it is, or maybe it was like even at the type of night, or what time at night it is. Like I don't know if this is true or not, but I read this. I wrote a paper when I was like very young about ninjas. Like ninjas will look at cat's eyes in the middle of the night, and they could tell how many hours have passed based on.
This is real life.
I don't know if that's true. I just read that and I thot it was awesome.
Oh, if that's true, that's insane.
I put it in my
cats
paper.
are so much more better than dogs.
What do dogs do? You look at their eyes and it's just like derp.
Food. Pet me.
Yeah, that's way better. And so he that's how he gets into hell, is he has like, it was not holy water. There's nothing special about the water.
I don't think there was. I think the water was just like a catalyst for him to not be touching.
But you had to be submerged
like
in water. Because that comes up later in the movie. You have to be in water to get to hell. And that's where the chaos, the water is like a portal to another realm, and cats get you there too. And that's why you had to have both of those things. And then he said some shit in Latin.
So when Angela's in the tub and he's drowning her, that's just I thought it was just for her to like get a near-death experience.
That too, but it's also
the vehicle.
The whole theme was a running theme of water. Like that's why she crashes into water to go to hell. Then she gets the sister. Wow. Yeah.
Tying that up for me. Thanks, Michael.
There you go.
I mean, Kuhlman.
Yeah. Let me explain the movie to you.
Thanks. Water is everything. Wrote it down.
Yeah, that pretty much says what I just said. I'm really glad you got the whole point there. Looks into cat's eyes to go to hell. At this point, I realized the movie was not horror, but it was shocking imagery nonetheless. And like when he's in hell, there's all these demons with like half their heads torn off, and there's kind of like guts and just creepy stuff. And hell is very like. The way they shot it was a little bit cheesy with the CGI.
And this time when we see hell, is this the first time that we see like the city, like because it's based in Los Angeles? Is this the first time that we saw that shot of like Los Angeles burning?
I believe so.
I thought that was a cool scene. So I don't know why you say it's like cheesy CGI, because I like that was the.
It wasn't cheesy. It was just like they obfuscated. They made it dark, and like everything was like kind of like blurry. It wasn't defined and detailed.
It was a wasteland.
It was a wasteland.
It's hell.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was ill-defined or
I liked
that
it.
They made it dark on purpose so that you couldn't see details. Like, hell for me is someplace where you're not going to survive. That's why only demons survive there, is because they're going to take you and torture you down under the 6 feet under even the surface of hell. And of course, the surface of hell is this maelstrom of all this destruction of the past life of humans and their trash just, spewing about, and it's unlivable, on top. So I thought that was kind of, I thought
if you had shot that movie with today's much better CGI, I think you would have made that more sharp and defined. I think they would have shot it a little bit differently. It seemed like that was a limitation of the technology. Effects that they could have. Am I onto something there?
Sure.
You sort of agree
I'll
with
give
me?
You that.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't want to I don't want to like tear down the reason that they did that was because,
no.
Well, that was the limitation of the technology then. So I'm just gonna. I like what they did with what they could at that time.
I actually want to give them props because they used all the special effects in this movie to great effect. Yeah, it was well portrayed the way they like the demons were a little bit CGI. You could tell they were CGI. I mean, you could tell CGI today is CGI, but the point is it's better now.
Mm-hmm.
You could just do more stuff, and I still like the imagery. It was like gross, and it felt bad. Like, this is a terrible place, which is exactly what hell should be.
Yeah, exactly. And not unwelcome, and that's why they went to edit to me. It's like, if it's blowing like that, I don't want to be here for much longer than I have to.
Another cool thing is he tells her to leave the apartment, and as she's closing the door, he
looks into her eyes, like, in real time, what you see is, like, this door closing, and he then is looking into this cat's eyes, and the
time slows down
to a minuscule, like, the door is barely moving, and you know that a person normally closes the door, that last thing takes half a second.
Yeah.
But they slow it down to, like, 10 seconds of her closing the door and him looking into the eyes and her closing the door and listening at the door and him looking closer into the eyes and the water.
Dude, I love me some slow-mo.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't think... give me more slow-mo, dude.
Have you ever watched the slow-mo guys on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those videos are...
Yeah, that's almost like hydraulic press.
Yeah,
like when they smash it, it's like, this is... like, why am I watching this? 14 videos later.
Literally because I would not be able to witness it any other way. That's the beauty of that type of stuff. Anyways.
Yes.
The water's boiling. He has his feet in the pool of water.
And there's like a 4-minute scene of him in hell.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing. Oh, he's trying to
find her. So that's why I wanted to say that he has to be in her apartment in order to kind of like guide him, like have some sort of like a compass for him to get to her. So that's why I assumed that he was in her apartment, or Rachel's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's holding the cat, and then 2 minutes of him in hell. And still, the door has just closed in real life.
In real time, it feels like a second. Like, he tells her to leave, she closes the door, and then as soon as she closes it, he shouts, "Angela, come!" Like, and she opens it back up, and she finds him like disheveled.
Yeah,
and
he looks like he's just got back from
the
desert.
Yeah,
and a pool and a sauna all together.
He's soaking wet. He's like maybe sweating or something, and he's steaming.
Steaming, yeah. I don't think he's soaking wet.
The feet it boiling and the water was everywhere. I remember there just being like
water on the floor. Okay,
maybe sense. It wasn't soaking wet, but he was steaming and it was almost like he was on fire.
Yeah,
and he's like hunched over, he's breathing heavily, and and he has her
while he's in hell. He finds her and she gives him her
hospital wristband. Yeah, that has her name on it.
Right.
So he brings that back from hell and shows it, and so. Angela gets the confirmation. Oh, you found her.
You know what you're doing. This guy's actually might be able to help me.
And that kind of opens up another mystery, more questions of why is she in hell? Why is she trying to get him? And he does more investigation, and that leads us on to the next bit of the movie, where he says, "What the hell is happening? And why are demons rising up out of hell?" And what's also interesting, going back on it, he put a lot of demons into hell. And now he's going to get thrown into prison with all the prisoners. So it's almost like a cop.
That's said multiple times. It's like, oh, I got to go back there. And it's like, oh, yeah, you've put many, many people down there. Like, it's not where you want to go. And he's dreading it.
Yeah. Which is always a cool concept.
I actually wrote, what an awesome job depicting hell.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good depiction of him being down there. Still holds up quality-wise. I wrote here, the pace ramps up and ends fast. So I don't remember that. Right after that, there was a scene where it was like a lot of music, and the music just built up.
Quick edits.
And then boom, it would have that loud ending and transition to the next scene. I don't remember what scene that was.
Yes. At some point, he mentions that this is a very nihilistic view of humanity and our role in it, is that God's a kid with an ant farm. He's not planning anything. And so that's a different view from how people view religion and God now. Is that
what John says?
John says that, and so to me, that in philosophy, there's like Nietzsche who says God is dead, and it's like because we've killed him, we have gotten to the point in humanity where we've outthought religion. Like we've realized that we don't need religion, and like people are atheists now, but then people are existentially, what's the purpose of it all? And it's like, well, God's still out there. He just doesn't care about us. Like, that's a kind of a deep concept.
It's agnostic, right?
Maybe that's agnostic means I don't know what's out there and it can't be known. It's unknowable. Agnostic. Agnostic means knowledge.
There's got to be a word for someone who believes in God, but believes that he doesn't take any willful interaction.
Deistic.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that deistic? Deistic says that God created the world and then left it alone, and is not actively interfering or doesn't care.
Gotcha.
So that's a little bit deistic. Yeah, it's a cool insight on like how distressing would that be that you felt like you were created, you could see all this stuff, you have proof. And another thing with John is that he was told that like you can see all the stuff that's happening, but you don't have the belief, and that's what it takes to get to heaven. And so it's this conflicted character of why don't you just believe and give it up? And it's because he's still holding on to something, conceit and cockiness, confidence, and self. He thinks he's such a big deal, and yeah. Great use of props. At one point, he goes and like he pulls a chair. And he asks nighttime, like midnight. Sorry, nighttime.
He pulls the chair from the opposite side of the room and pulls it all the way over to his desk so he can sit in front of midnight.
And the action of him doing it was, Keanu's just such a good physical actor. Yeah. He just pulls it, kind of hunched over and sort of not angry, but just purposeful.
Right. Deliberate.
Yeah. That's a perfect word for it. And it's a small thing, but he's like, which way is east? And then they point. Drags a chair, sets it right in front, and he's got to do something with that.
Oh, that's the... Is that the choking chair?
There was shocking.
Yeah.
At this point, I think it's safe to say that you and me are both going to like kind of run through the rest of the movie. We're not going to break it down scene by scene unless
even though my notes are scene by scene, but that's okay.
Do you want to do...
No,
yeah, I mean...
That's fine. We can... I just have random notes here that doesn't make sense. I wrote flip phone.
Yeah.
2005 flip phone. We saw that.
That was pre-iPhone. It's like a different world. It's like
now you'll have like House of Cards. The text messages just show up on the screen. It doesn't need a phone at all. You just as soon as those messages show up, you know exactly what's happening. Or they'll show an actual screenshot now of like an iPhone and be like, oh, they're opening this app and typing this out. Da da da. Everyone recognized the blips of an iPhone clicker keyboard and the send signal and all that stuff. John repeatedly opens up this flip phone to be like, burp, 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 and it's just like a readout.
Yeah. It's cool because like the late 90s till like 2010, I want to say. 2010, almost everybody had an iPhone then. There's like this period of time where things look modern, but there's no smartphones. That's a magical time that we're never going to go back to.
Yep. From
here on out, it's devices in our pockets or in our
glasses or ears or
everything's
bodies.
We're never gonna have the time where it's like I don't know where someone else is.
Right.
Let me call them on the cell phone or in the house phone if they're not. No, that's gone.
Yeah.
We got
literally
GPS
instantaneously.
location.
Yeah, and you can't make movies about people being lost anymore, dude.
Nope. Yeah. Where's your phone?
You have Google Maps.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noted here that John lost or was losing it. He almost it seemed like his character was losing it, and he was pushing Angela pushing her up against the wall in order to trigger something, and I didn't really I wasn't, for some reason I wasn't grasping if he had a strategy and whether he was trying to...
You're talking about when he grabs her by the arm and sort of leads her around?
Yeah, he was goading her into kind of losing it herself so that he could get information out. And
He's
it ends up
losing
being
his grip.
successful. Yeah, and she ends up saying something or going into a mode of a passive that oh, let me confess something to you, or here's the extra detail that I wasn't giving you before. That
it's at that point that she explains that she used to see it, right? Am I on the right track with you? All right.
Yeah, that's the scene. And right before that, they're just normal, and all of a sudden he's he loses it. He just gets angry, and now he's pushing her around, he's yelling at her, blah blah blah, and she's not responsive, she doesn't want to cooperate, and he gets to a point and she's all right. I don't know if it was the trauma, I don't know if it was just him, that he knew that doing those certain actions was going to get something out of her, but obviously it worked, and she confessed.
Well, that's kind of the dramatic tension, right? Sort of rising up, where our characters are faced with things they don't think they can accomplish the goals that they're trying to accomplish. It seems too big for them, and even our main character feels that way. As confident as he is, as good as he is at his job, he can't do this part, and that's drama. That's really good drama.
I wrote I wrote Beeman killed by. And Beeman's another side character. He's one
He's
of
like
John's.
the tech guy. He's
yeah,
like
he's one of
almost
John's,
like Q for James Bond.
Yeah, yeah. He went to look for the demon Bible, which is interesting. Like, what an
Yeah.
interesting concept to like. Oh, sure. The rest of us have a Bible, but the demons have their own Bible with their own prophecies and their own interpretations of,
He looks up like Corinthians 29,
Revelations.
and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think there's a real Corinthians. Like Corinthians ends at like 23 or
It's
something
like
like that.
Corinthians 17:32, and everyone's like, Corinthians chapter 17 doesn't go to 32. It just goes to like 25 or something
And he
like that.
says,
And it's like,
you think that, but
Yeah,
there is. There's
there's
all this
the-
extra Bible that.
yeah, this is the devil. There's the version of the Bible in hell, and in
I
hell
love
they
it.
have like extra things.
What an interesting concept,
Yeah.
right?
So Beeman has to go find this Bible. That's his name and character. I don't remember his.
I don't know the
actor.
actor's name. Yeah,
I don't think he's very famous.
No, he's not very
Yeah.
famous now.
Sub character anyway. So
Yeah.
he dies, and I was like, killed by ? And then I have an edit. It's like Balthazar. Who else, dummy? It's like
You're talking to
It's like
yourself.
the only villain that we've seen so far. Like, hello, you could have just drawn that, but I edited it later because
And just to be clear, Balthazar works for Satan's son. Right? He doesn't work for Satan.
Did we see Balthazar die?
Yeah, John Wick. John Constantine kills him.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Or no, he kills him, and then some character. Actually, this gets a little confusing. So he walks in to Balthazar where he lives on the desk. Remember, he puts the holy water on him,
Yeah.
and then he kind of dies.
Oh yeah, it beats the crap out of him. And
Yeah.
then he leaves it on the table, and then who?
A
comes
character
in?
walks in, and I think that might have been Satan's son, the guy with the. We figure out the main protagonist of this film is not Satan; it is Satan's son, which is
Right.
like a Jesus Christ character,
Right.
but for like
for the devil.
for the devil.
Yeah.
And that I think it's that person acting within the person
Would
with
you
the
call
spear.
him the Antichrist?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Antichrist. Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
They didn't say that, but
Right,
it's,
right.
You know.
Right.
And its name is Mamet. Mamet?
Mammon.
Mammon.
Yeah.
Mammon. And a character we don't know off screen, like, goes in and could revive. Maybe it was Satan. Because who has the ability to revive Balthazar? See, I think Balthazar was working for...
Gabriel.
It was Gabriel. They would have shown Gabriel.
Mm-mm.
Because at that point, we didn't know that Gabriel
Because we
was
don't
a
know.
bad,
We
was a
don't
bad
know
guy.
who kills Beeman at that point, because Beeman is discovered dead, but we don't see any. All we hear is like loud noises behind him. We see the lights flickering, and all of a sudden,
But Balthazar asks him, "Hey, can you like revive me?" And
bring
then
me
that,
back.
Yeah, bring me
Oh,
back.
yeah.
And then that person like doesn't. So I think this my movie hypothesis. I think it was Mammon who comes in. We don't know it's Mammon, and Balthazar says, "I've done what you've asked. I've brought the girl here. I brought John Constantine here, and John Constantine brought Angela around." And
You're right. Yeah, it has to be. It has to be Mammon because we see him decay, like the cows decayed in the pasture, and that's
Yeah.
exactly how that happened too.
Yeah, and so Balthazar kind of dies.
Yeah. So we definitely know that Balthazar working for the Antichrist. So that's just how that works.
Yeah.
Who's a rat in a dress now, bitch? That's what Chaz says to
To
the bouncer.
The bouncer.
He walks by him.
Yeah.
Then it gets clocked by Satan's son. Do we ever get a name for the demon that takes over Angela eventually?
If we
Mammon.
did,
Mammon. Duh.
was it Mammon?
Mammon. And I never remembered his name, so I just kept saying Satan's son smacks the shit out of John.
I guess getting towards the end, basically,
Yeah,
Mammon.
the final scene, right?
Yeah, let's just head our way to the final scene.
Sure.
Um,
She goes underwater for a while. She goes underwater, right? He gets her power back.
they go to the place where Isabel killed herself.
No, I thought they did it. Remember, they did that in the bathtub thing, and then they go there
Yeah,
because they had to unlock her like ability to be able to see or something.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they end up going to hell,
Right.
and he kind of almost kills her, and they somehow end up like the final scene. Like, I guess before that, John gets a bunch of like weapons and guns and stuff, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
goes on a little rampage, and there's some nice demon killing.
Yeah.
Things
Some
like that.
golden bullets with a machine gun.
Holy water.
Machine gun, shotgun type thing.
Yeah.
Holy water. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the typical vampire hunter type
Yeah.
Yeah. Or demon killer type.
Demon killing, Van Helsing.
What did you call it? Like M. Or
Like-
like M for 007. He just gets like equipped.
Oh,
Like
Q.
James Bond. Yeah, like Q. Sorry. Q.
Q is the tech guy
Yeah,
from...
M's
yeah.
the boss, yeah.
Yeah. But then at the very end, it looks like Memont has won. And
Yeah, because he gets there and he like pulls Gabriel out of the water, and then
it turns
Memont
out
appears behind him.
all this time Gabriel's a bad guy
Yeah,
working with Memont.
I put a note here. I was like, so when she puts her foot, if she knocks him down or like is holding him down after she like suddenly appears, I was like, there's no way that's like a real actor's foot in Keanu's like face right here. I was
Yeah.
like, there's no way he lets a foot get that close to him while he's shooting.
It's like a
I was
prop or
it
something.
must be a prop. It must be like a mannequin
Yeah.
foot that they just put there and put some makeup on to make it look real.
That's interesting. That's a very specific scene.
Well, because it didn't look like a real foot. Like the toes weren't moving
just-
or anything. You just go back and look, and it just kind of looks like
Oh, okay.
a very still foot.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Yeah. I was like, there's no way Keanu lets that.
They put on fake feet like in The Hobbit
Yeah.
or Lord of the Rings. They did that. But then what the coolest part was, and this is kind of the spoiler for the very end, is that he has to think quickly, like he's been defeated, like how to stop time in order to and save Rachel.
Right.
So what he does is he actually cuts his own wrists and commits suicide.
Yeah.
And
This is all while Gabriel's like took him out, thought she'd knocked him out, and was ready to go back to what she was going to do, and apparently wants to kill.
yeah, and she smashed a window, and so he picks up the shards, and so he kills himself. And
And so
because
she has to. So in order for him to like get back into our plane or to the purgatory, as he called it,
Okay,
or just
yeah.
like the normal human realm, she has to like give him permission, right? Like that's what the rules were explained in some of the premise. So she has to like kill him, or kill the human form body of Mammon for Mammon to be able to unlock his full power. So that's what she's like going to do. She leaves.
and
John
Mammon
there.
is the guy with the spear who showed up.
Right.
Okay.
Who's now
Yeah.
possessed Angela.
Yeah. And then when he kills himself, time stops, and actually, Lucifer comes to drops down off of. And this is like in slow mo again. He drops down from the sky and has a chair, and he kind of sits in the chair. He's dressed in all white, and kind of a middle-aged guy.
Did you notice his feet? It
What
was
about
like he
them?
was leaving. His feet were I guess dirty, but he wasn't stepping anything. But he was leaving behind a tread wherever he walked, and I'm pretty sure it was blood.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting thing that I saw. I was like, wherever he would walk, he would leave behind footprints, like he had stepped in paint or something.
Yeah.
But it has to be blood, right? Or maybe that's just for him to be able to step on our plane, you know? Like maybe in order to be here,
Yeah.
that's the tax of the cost. Is like your foot burns to the floor or something. Or his foot, I should
Yeah.
say.
And it's funny because John Constantine's already met him, so he calls him Lou. Right? Then he
He calls him Lou.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Lou.
Hey, Lou. And he tries to work a deal out where he could give his life up for
Yeah, he asked for a
Angelus.
cigarette too, right?
Yeah.
Remember the comment you made?
Yeah,
Is
and
he like...
Lucifer was like joking around with him,
Right.
like messing around with while he was
He
about
put
to
the
light
cigarette
it.
in his mouth,
Yeah.
and then he like lit the lighter, and John would like reach in with his cigarette to try to get it light where Lucifer was holding the flame, and Lucifer would move it. He'd move it over there, and then John kind of like sits back and looks at him like, he's like,
I love that depiction.
Yeah.
It was a quick little, just that's how the devil would be,
Right.
like kind of like
Right.
this elegant guy that sort of
Right.
messes with you a little bit, and kind of a good talker, and yeah.
It kind of shines a little bit like on like their history, like that they're comfortable with, not comfortable, but familiar enough with each other that
It's like a old Western song, like I met the devil and he was my friend, or
Yeah.
something. Like it just sort of
Right.
reminds me that's
Right.
a trope.
or maybe like a little bit of respect on
Yeah.
Lucifer's part for John, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna get your soul, so I'll like this. I'll do anything you want right now, almost, because I know I'm gonna get your soul, and that's the thing that you're the only one that I would come up here for to personally collect.
Yeah, and Lucifer has no idea what his son is doing.
Right.
That was kind of a funny thing too.
Yeah,
It's
John
like,
has to be like, go look behind you. Yeah.
and he looks behind, and its time is stopped, and Angel's almost dead,
Yeah.
and so they're trying to have this
Because it has
conversation.
that slow-mo scene of Gabriel trying to kill her with the spear.
Yep. No, it was a perfect depiction of Satan.
I wrote a question here that says, what does it mean to be noble? Because at one point John says, I don't remember what he said, but the word noble came up like he said it like that the demons weren't, or the angels weren't being noble, or Gabriel wasn't being noble, or maybe it was what Gabriel said to him. What do you think? What does noble mean to you? How would you define it, or would you just use Webster's dictionary and define it as everyone else does?
No. I think what Constantine eventually did is noble, where he kind of realized that the world doesn't matter because he's already damned to hell. So you can act however way you want it because nothing matters. But if you actually give your life up to someone else who cares about something, that's kind of a noble action. It's sort of a Christ-like thing to do, like die for someone else. And he had that character arc, and that was kind of his turn at the very end of becoming a chain smoker, just all about himself, and nothing matters, to I'm trying to save another person and make her happy. And
I like that you use the word Christ-like, because it was almost like a metaphor of Constantine, I'm going to die for this woman, save this woman, and Saint's like, all right, well, I get your soul, I can do this little thing for you. And I thought it was interesting that Satan didn't, or Lucifer, I should stop calling him that. Lucifer didn't catch John's little like trick on him. Like, yeah, you can have me, but I want you to.
Well, he kind of did catch him, right?
That's what I mean.
So
I'm
Satan starts
that Lucifer didn't like catch on. Like, oh, if he's gonna, you don't make that connection until it's already passed, and he sacrificed for himself for her. That's gonna unbalance the scales that Lucifer was operating under. I don't know. I always thought Lucifer would be
more crafty.
How many times has he had this interaction before with someone who they're like, don't take me until blah blah blah. He's not going to fulfill that wish, but because he had maybe the respect or just pure blind to the desire that he didn't catch on that little catch that was going to mess up his plans, I guess.
Eventually, Lucifer does drag him away. Like, tries to. Do you want to describe that part and what you liked about it?
No, go ahead. Oh, I just liked it because it was especially back then when I think I first watched the movie, it was a unique way to indicate that
the devil's taking you to to hell.
Right. It was like started off, it's a 10-second clip, and he starts off, he's dragging him just fine, and then as the weight of John's request kind of like sinks in, it literally sinks him in, and he like gets heavier and heavier as something that would, weigh a ton. Being dragged across a tile floor or a building, it's going to slowly dig into the thing, and that's what happened to John. As Lucifer's pulling him, he kind of gets heavy.
And there's a light from the other side, and it's supposed to be God. Yeah. That's like
shining his light of grace or something.
Yeah, but they keep it very mysterious and very. They don't show anything more than that, which is exactly the right way to do it.
They kind of like hint in a direction, but they don't.
Whereas they showed Lucifer, which was a shocking moment, but the way they did it was perfect. If I'm glad they didn't do the other side. And
I guess they did, didn't they? Or was that at the end where we see like a glimpse of like heaven in the clouds?
Yeah, but even then it was not.
It wasn't like him walking up the
pearly gates or anything. Yeah, or like a big guy with a beard.
Yeah,
like
taking Peter's hand through the gate.
Yeah, it wasn't anything. That would have been on the nose too much. No, the way they did this was good.
Yeah.
And so he drags him away, and it's kind of like because he had performed a final action.
A final action of self-sacrifice.
Yes. Which I guess brought him into heaven. Well, not really, because Lucifer then said, well, if I can't have him, you can't either. And he goes into his lungs and kind of takes out the cancer, this black mass of cancer, and says, you're going to live. And so he damns him back to earth if he can't have him right now, giving him more chances to fuck up and not go to heaven, which is like, all right, that's fair trade.
Who needs Daredevil or Deadpool's like invincibility to just keep living on, where you just have these forces of good and evil fighting over you? Hey, I'm gonna heal you. I'll take away your cancer. Like, all right, perfect. I can keep on chain smoking away.
Well, he actually can't smoke anymore. That was my impression afterwards. Is that he could, because we didn't see him smoke after that. I don't think he could.
Like physically couldn't?
I don't think he could. Yeah.
Or just like a kind of what is it called? A side effect of what Lucifer had done.
Yeah, sort of similar with the guy can't drink.
Right.
Saying he can't smoke, and so at the very final scene, he has like throwing gum in.
Maybe he just decided to quit because he wanted to.
Maybe, it's a new chance.
A new him.
Redemption arc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. John I almost said John Wick too.
Yeah, yeah.
Damn it, Keanu. Too many star roles.
And I just wrote, movies need quick, sharp, eventful turns to make a good story. And
Okay.
there
Keep
was
you
a lot of
guessing.
those.
Yeah, don't let the viewer kind of like, oh yeah, I know what's gonna happen. Here's the usual trope of things that happens. Yeah. I wrote, this movie needs to be played as loud as you can take it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, like we said, we use subtitles. If we hadn't used subtitles, I would have missed a couple of like the quieter,
Whispers, yeah.
the conversations that maybe Beeman was having, or Angela and John, or especially when they were kind of being intimate and he kissed her on the cheek or whatever. Like if we didn't have the subtitles, I mean we had a decently loud, but it wasn't like a theater type loud experience where real quiet and the real quiet conversations are normal volume, and then you get the big huge speaker sounds for the fights and demon screams and all that.
There was a layers of stop time within stop time sort of thing going on. That was Inception-like, where multiple layers are stopping.
Time. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can that way, I mean, that gives you the creativity or the ability to kind of go into each scene microscopically and depict what's happening over here versus what's happening over here, and instead of flashing back and doing a real-time scene, you just kind of like build it right in, slow it right down to, milliseconds. But yeah, I thought that was a cool power that Lucifer had. It was cool that the last line that Gabriel says, as I guess she dies or she's what's the word? She's confined, I guess. She loses her wings, right? Like, because she betrayed and all that stuff, she loses her wings, and now she's kind of human. So she was a hybrid, and now she's, like, done.
Yeah.
And he says something, and she's like, look how well you're doing. Like, he turned a new leaf, and she was making fun of him. He's on nicotine gum now. That was my last note. He's on nicotine gum now.
Yeah. And so it was a great movie.
Yeah.
And, hopefully if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it in a while, this encourages you to go back and watch it, or
hopefully you heard the spoilers.
Yes.
The spoiler before we started.
Yeah. No, this is definitely meant for people that and if you're never going to watch it and you just find this kind of stuff interesting, then we're going to do more stuff like this.
Yep. We got a whole lineup. No spoilers.
Yeah.
Just have to wait and find out next weekend, hopefully.
Overall, you give the movie what out of 10?
What did I say earlier? 8 out of 10? I'll stick with that.
Stick with 8 out of 10?
Yeah.
I would give it a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
So it was just awesome all around.
Yep.
Any final thoughts or words on the movie?
Come to the dark side, we have cookies.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Alright, that's good enough.
It's not a hint for anyone. That wasn't a hint or anything. That's a Star Wars reference, I'm pretty sure, or a joke that they make. But it's good to be evil sometimes.
Yeah. Alright.
You got any final notes?
No.
Just cut it off right there, huh?
Yeah.
And that's a wrap, folks.